Go live. Always ready to go live. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Ian. Good evening, Dave.
YouTubers as normal. First off, there.
Nice and sharp. Yeah.
I think they get to cheat though. I think they can start commenting on the.
I think you can comment about 5 weeks before. I think something like that. Yeah.
You're so close with the background to being like the Tin Man out of the Wizard of Oz. If you just kind of went like that way a little bit, you'd have that kind of copper hat coming out.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah, welcome along, guys, for our Blether with Andrew from Little Brown Dogs. Little Brown Dogs.
Little Brown Dogs.
Yeah. Good. I'm apologising now for my husky voice. I'm lucky with any voice. The last 2 days, it's been almost non-existent.
Talking about dogs, you're on the dog puns.
Yeah, already. Yeah, like it. So if it goes, I'll try and get on mute and stave any coughing fits that I might have. I'm sure once the whiskies go, and then we'll be.
Yeah, once a dram gets down there and just kind of coats the back of
it. Good evening, Fraser and James from our Facebook. Welcome on. A hat trick tonight. That's 3 Andrew Smiths in the bag. That's
just third time, so he gets to keep us. That's it. He actually owns us now.
Yeah, pretty cool.
We are the Jules Rimet.
That's put us in a cask and wait for us to mature. Maybe it's.
It could be a long time to wait for us to mature. I've got the 57. I haven't matured yet, so.
57 is all.
Yeah. You think I was much older?
What have we got? We've got James is on the batch 1 of the wee mongrel today. He's on the island watching.
You're a lucky man. I must have taken some discipline to keep some of that in a bottle.
I know. I've got a little bit of batch 1 still left.
Gosh, mine went a long time ago. I've only got about that much left of batch 2.
That's what I've got left of batch 2.
Oh, I've got a little bit more than you of batch 2.
That was our first Blether of the year.
Yeah.
I finished that one up, and so that is no more. So we'll chip up Andrew when he's on and see if he's got any more lying about.
Indeed.
Right, what are you on tonight, guys at home? Let's know what you're on as well.
I've got a cup of coffee to start with, and I might progress on to a wee drop of our lovely.
The Octave.
Undisclosed. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I've actually started off tonight on the rum.
Oh yeah, nice. I never tried that.
Yeah, did you not? Oh, well,
no, I didn't know.
I've got some left, so I can take it tomorrow for you.
Oh, yeah, that'll be nice. Yeah, yep.
So the four square rum, which is pretty special. Really, really nice. I'm probably more fussy over my rum than I am with my whiskey, and this is right up there.
I've got on the as usual Little Brown Dog t-shirt underneath the shop. So yeah.
I wasn't that organised. I don't know what I've got on. Probably a Top Gun t-shirt or something. I'm not sure. I'm not going to undress in front of everyone. It's not that right.
The providency of providences.
Absolutely. Let's get Andrew on because we're on the verge of bleeding and shake now. We don't.
I think we went past the verge a while ago.
We've got Dean Jode jumping on Glengarry Tokai finish for a fancy Thursday. I might join you on the Tokai. I've got the Tormore here.
You still got some of that left as well.
Yeah, I've got quite a bit of that left actually.
I've just guzzled mine clearly.
I'll be jumping onto that later on, Dean. So we'll have a Tokai twosome later on. Let's get Andrew on.
Yeah.
Hello, how are you?
You boys carry on. Like I was just listening the way there. I think we need to change this name from a Blether to an absolute haven. Like it's,
a Blether.
Yeah. Actually, I've also like. If this is the third time I've been on here, I think we need to rename it to Scraping the Barrel rather than, like.
We're on the
I think that would be a good name for a blog or podcast or something. Just
Scraping the
you're
barrel.
really stuck in. All the good industry people are busy for the night. Let's just get Andrew back on again and get scraping the barrel.
It's always good fun. There's always new stuff going on, so we can learn. You guys have released so much since the last time we spoke.
Of course, yeah.
I actually I can't remember the last time. To be fair, I don't know what was about to come out or what we were doing there, but I do remember the one where I thought it'd be a really good idea to sit in the field and do it, and then the sun went down and it was absolutely bloody freezing. So I remember that one.
So the last one we had, I ended up in that room that you're sitting in just now.
Oh right. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. It was when we mixed the Calvados with the Springbank 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
was good. That.
stop that recording pretty quick because we were just about to demolish the shop bar, I think.
Yes, that was brilliant. Like, yeah. Why are we not there again tonight? Much better drinking your whiskey than it is drinking mine.
Yeah, I can remember. Notice why you can't remember the last one.
Yeah, it's there somewhere.
Cat says every day is a Glengarry day. Easy now. So Dean's in easy now. I'm not sure if that's the cat or the Talkeye twosome.
Talkeye twosome, I think. that would want to be a wee bit as well.
I think I'd be changing what was in my glass at that point just to avoid any possibility of that happening.
Yeah. I mean, Glengarry, right across the glen from you guys. Any Glengarry in the warehouse?
There is some. Yeah, we were trying to get it home just now, actually. But there'll be a Glengarry at some point. I really hope that we can achieve the Aberdeenshire trilogy at some stage, but we'll have to go to find some Glendronach. I might just go to Ardmore's instead.
A Glenglasser, maybe. That's probably.
Yeah. Well, we're creeping into Moray there, aren't we? That's always the danger, isn't it? That we end up stealing Moray's whiskey and calling it our own. But I'm feared to upset anybody in Moray now, just in case I've got my borders wrong. So we don't want the Moray Massive coming down and.
Well, it's on the Moray coast, I suppose, but I'm not sure if it's classed as Moray.
Which one, Glenglasser?
Yeah.
No, Glenglasser's Aberdeenshire.
Is it?
Port Says Aberdeenshire. Yeah.
Well, that's fine then. We can do that. We've got a Macduff that we've just done something with. So we'll do. Yeah, I don't know when that'll be ready. We literally just re-racked it the other week. And at some point, Brewdog will be online, won't they? But that's a few years away yet.
Will they be? Have you bought one of their casks? Have you?
No. Too expensive for us.
We're having
Glazed. Always scared to bring them up in case they think, oh, they've got dog in their name. That's clearly some sort of competition clause there. We'll have to shut them down, like so.
The little brown brew dog. There we go.
Let's not make any more comparisons.
Is that why you haven't gone for the full Doric little brown dog? It's too close to brew dog.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, like we do often kind of do a lot of our promotion stuff, Spick and Doric, but it's purely impostorship. I mean, I'm from the Central Belt and Chris is from Shropshire, so it starts to become a bit like cultural appropriation, doesn't it? So we better be careful.
You've got
I like to think I'm an adopted Aberdonian now, but I've not been up here long enough. I've only been up here for 15, 16 years, so I never will be.
It's half your life.
I used to have a colleague.
That's very kind of you, Mike. Thanks. It's not quite, but yeah, closer to half than a third, I suppose. But yeah.
I used to have a colleague from Essex who literally spoke in just nothing but Doric with an Essex accent. It was quite disconcerting, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, I know a guy from Hereford who speaks perfect Doric with a Herefordshire accent. Right. Do you sometimes think some of these references are lost in anybody sort of south of Montrose, I
wonder how that comes up on the subtitle.
Inhaled in brackets. Yeah.
Inhales loudly.
So, what a year for you guys 2022 was.
Yeah, it's a lot of change.
Mm.
You know, that picture you've got in the background there, that's a historical image now, you know.
For the archives.
There's a rally car sitting in there now instead. So but it's been great to move into the bigger site and the farm. It means we've freed up an awful lot more space. We've very, very quickly filled it. It's amazing how quickly you can fill a space, but with running now 2 bottle sizes, that's at least 2 pallets, but usually several more than that of bottles. 2 different pallets of box sizes and everything else that goes with that. So we've mostly filled the space with a load of old crap. And again, we've tried to keep it sensible. We want to spend our money on whiskey, so all the building work was done by Chris. We've rebuilt the distillery with another kitchen that we got off Gumtree, but a bigger one this time. And for the benefit of all of our more particular viewers, all the cabinets have the handles on the right way around on these ones, and like the one in the just beside me there with the the handle that's sitting on the floor, and all the cabinets match. So you know that will please at least 4 or 5 people that were distraught to see that before. All the stainless steel work surfaces are out of the vet surgery that we're getting thrown in the skip. So we've got the old X-ray table with our bottling line, and we couldn't understand why this thing was so bloody heavy until we realised there was a thick sheet of lead bolted underneath it for the X-rays. Our fire doors came out the Macallan, so it's probably about the only thing we'll get out of the Macallan anytime soon. But at least the fire doors—that's the important thing, you know. I think it's about as much.
You charge a fortune for that.
We're going to do a special edition called the Macallan Doors edition. It's going to just be travel retail only and cost a fortune, but it'll be a real petty box, like.
Yeah, pretty box. 40%, of course.
Well, you wouldn't want any of that kind of like nasty alcohol getting in the way of the flavour.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
And of course, you released your wee glasses as well.
That's it. You promote away. That's fine. I mean, he's wearing a t-shirt. You've got the glass. I've got absolutely nothing to show. You know.
I would promote a tin mug, but there's none of them available yet.
No, they were just for my own use. Chris loses the will to live with me sometimes because, like, pretty much if you can put a logo in anything, there's a very strong danger that I end up buying it, and then Chris going, "What are we going to do with a LBD woolly hat or whatever?" You know. So
without going on a wee rant, that's up for consultation, isn't it? All that lovely, good, gimmicky, brandy stuff. Might be all right.
We've not got the USB pen holders yet, whatever the toilet brush, you know.
Yeah, I mean, seriously aside, things like dog collars and leads would be perfect for you guys.
Well, yeah, but also like we keep getting messages on Instagram going, "You'd be great for our dog lifestyle channel," and you know, we want you to model these dog bandanas, and so we're trying very hard not to make ourselves look some sort of like lifestyle brand for pet owners. Like it is extremely serious distilling and bottling only, of course, you know.
Yeah, I mean, everyone watching knows how serious you take the whole thing, especially
Absolutely. Basically documentaries.
Yeah, very serious stuff.
I'm slightly nervous about the next release. I think that we may have overstepped the mark with the next video, but
all right, okay.
yeah, we'll soon find out. If we get taken off of YouTube forever, then we'll know why.
Oh, in the can.
It's in the can. The lengthiest point of any of these things is removing it from the can and putting it onto the computer, and that's purely down to me being terrible at kind of putting everything off until the very last minute. So that's a job for the weekend, I think.
Oh,
special procrastination edition.
Yeah, we love a bit of procrastination, like you
Absolutely.
know, like you know, I think you know, you need to minimum age whiskey for 3 years, but you need to minimum procrastinate as well for a period of time as well to make it legitimate. So.
For sure, absolutely. What's the point in doing anything in time?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, for years we've been able to blame our lack of any kind of punctuality on, like, oh well, you know, some of these things have to, in distant warehouses, and we have to draw samples and whatever else. These things take time and logistics. We've got less excuses now. It just turns out that we are also just as bad at delaying things ourselves.
You're not chasing coos around the park anymore. So
No. I tell you what, having the warehouse on site has made a massive difference to what we do now.
Yeah.
It gives us a much better understanding of the stock that we own. It allows us to keep a much closer eye on things, any changes that we make. Anything that comes home gets sampled as it comes in. We weigh the cask, we nose it, we measure the ABV, and we make a decision at that point. We usually get a good idea if this is long-term stock or something that we're going to bottle more quickly. But it's just great to have it there and then, and you can make a decision straight away. And if we need to re-rack something, we try not to re-rack everything. We only re-rack what we need to re-rack. But if something we would say is spirit mature but wood immature, then we can make the decision to re-rack it at that moment in time. That's that job done, and then we've got the stock there to check it on this date to see where we're going with it, and hopefully then maintain that balance between spirit and wood, and don't go over with a finish. I don't ever want our finishes to dominate the spirit. I want it to be something that adds something, but isn't the only story about it. And I hope you guys would agree that the drams that we have had to finish in the past, like the Tormore and the Ardmore, we didn't go over the top with the finishes on those.
No, not at all. Yeah.
It's just trying to get that balance, and it's going to be better having that at home rather than somewhere far away that you can't just nip in and find out how it's doing.
Yeah.
That's probably been the biggest thing that's happened to us so far, and we'll continue to kind of improve what we can put out, and hopefully reach something approximating a schedule rather than just like random firing releases out because it's the third waning moon of the year or something. I don't know,
Matthew up at Canary just popped on in full agreement. Whisky's totally on par, so keep it up, and I'm sure you will. Can we expect with the warehouse and the larger kind of facility now more releases, or are you still going to be keeping them fairly?
I think the truth is we have to put a wee bit more out, but I mean we also want to try and balance that out with not overdoing it. We've got an incredibly loyal following, and we don't want to jeopardize that relationship by putting something out every week. It's just not how we can operate. It's not how we're going to operate. You hope to be a bit more organized. A couple of things that we are trying to do is have some products that are larger volume to allow people to maybe experience something that we do in between a release that will be there and doesn't need to sell it immediately. Because that is becoming one of the kind of challenges that we have to deal with at the moment. Is when a release comes out, it can just disappear completely. I'm not sure if you can hear the screaming child in the background.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of innocent child torture happening. There's no reason to be excited. I'm just going to ignore that and just leave it to my wife.
Let's just pretend it's children walking down the street, because the street's just outside the window here.
Yes, they're not in. Yes, it's definitely
happening.
Children in the fields.
That's right. Listen, that's bedtime. I've been there, Mike. You've got that.
My wife is very glad that you scheduled this at 7:00. It was really very well.
That's a regular bedtime sound, as I'm sure all parents that are listening in tonight will be familiar with.
So that's not at all off-putting, just
No, not at all.
I mean, it's tricky, right? And it's a bit odd that we would discuss this, but I want people to enjoy what we do, and I want people to be able to the people that want it to be able to get it. And we were quite surprised by how mad the last couple of releases were. We knew there was a bit of hype, but we Mungle 2. We expected the Ardnamurchan to be a good seller. We were a bit surprised by how quickly that went, and that's great, but also like it can be frustrating as well. I know what it's like when you want something. You've been there since the start. You've bought a distillery's releases for years, and then suddenly you can't get them, hold them anymore. I get that, and it's not easy. But I'm kind of fearful of having to do things like ballots and that sort of thing, because I'm completely incapable of doing something like that. That would cause more stress for everybody involved. And B, I want the retailers to get enough stock as well, and that it's just trying to keep that balance. And because we wouldn't exist without guys like yourselves, particularly in Brewery Whisky Shop. When we first turned up at your shop in 2019 with conical flasks filled with random stuff, and you're like, cool, we'll sell this,
Why wouldn't we? Anyone who comes in with a conical flask and pours it for us to taste, we'll sell that.
Yeah. Here you go. There you go. You're gonna have every nutter in Aberdeenshire on your doorstep tomorrow. Drink what I've made.
Made it on the bus on the way down. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more selective now.
Well,
so it's just a bit. That's what we're planning and trying to do, but not sacrifice the quality. So there's a few things in the pipeline. I've really been enjoying what we've been up to lately. We've been putting together a blended rum, and it's something that we hope that we can get, because we're finding it. How much inside information did I give you on these things? I mean, I really should be telling you these things, but obviously we will be doing we hope to be doing a whiskey. There's a lot of very, very good blends in the market now, even more so very recently. There's some cracking stuff out there that Ian Crouch has put out with North Star, that the guys have done with the Dumbarton Rock and all these things like that. There's some fantastic stuff out there. And so we'll do something, but we've managed to get, the important thing for us is if we do something like that we can repeat it, and it's not disappears within 5 minutes, then we can't do it again. So we've managed to get a reasonable source of rum, of excellent quality that we can continue to get. Okay. And so we put this blend together, a blend of cane and molasses rums, aging between 8 and 15 years old, all first fill bourbon. And I'm very happy with it. So we're looking forward to getting that into glass at some point, and hopefully that kind of thing, it can be an introduction to some people about what we do. It can be an introduction to a lot of whiskey drinkers about rum, because we're not rectifying this. We're not adding sugar. We're not adding spices or flavors. This is distilled rum. The flavor is coming from the style of raw material, the fermentation, the distillation, and the maturation. There's nothing added to it. We can swear here, can't we? We can swear. We're just swearing.
You're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I can't not swear, so that's one of the difficulties I have. I'm trying to find a polite way of writing on the label, unfucked about with. So if anyone has any suggestions, I thought UFO, but I think that's some sort of welfare charity. So, if we can find something that is a bit more palatable for people, then we should do that. But that's that. Treat rum like whiskey. Enjoy the process of the fermentation, the distillation, the maturation. Enjoy what you can achieve with that, without having to add other things to it.
Yeah,
because
it's. Rum is growing, and the great thing about rum is that there is so many different styles of it. That there is
absolutely, and I think as well, there's so many very good, especially locally, like spice rums and things like this. I feel it would be the wrong thing for us to do, to go down that route. Because I think it's already well catered for. I don't think there's much we could really contribute to that. And B, we're trying to do our own thing, and it kind of, the Four Square was an excellent introduction for us to put out and we will do more single cask rums, but obviously there will be fewer of those than whiskies, because that whiskey is what we're about, really.
Yeah, I guess what you're saying when for you to do something spiced or you have the same kind of stance with your gins, and you don't go sweetening or pink gins or any of that. It's
we don't like making things people want to drink. We just make very very, very strict, very there'll be no fun in any of this stuff.
Save the fun for the videos.
We did Toby's gin. I mean, Chris just looked at me like I just drop my trousers in the middle of the distillery, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna make this. And he's like, why? People don't want to drink neat and tatty gin. Like they want to drink sweet things like rhubarb and all those things like that. And I'm like, and raspberries and stuff like that. I said, no, that's not us. Like, let's try and challenge people a wee bit. And it's largely. I think you guys might have some. Let's do a sales pitch. Have you guys got any bottles left to shift, or is it all gone? Like,
Of the Stovies, I don't. If we do, it's one or two.
Okay, well, it pretty well, didn't it? Really, for what is a bewildering gin for anybody out with the northeast of Scotland, probably, and even within the northeast of Scotland. But it was, again, that's something like that is. I enjoy that because it combines a number of our passions. One, it combines our love of Aberdeenshire, our farming backgrounds and in working with other farmers in the area. And it's trying to challenge folks' perceptions. It's using ingredients in a different way that you wouldn't normally expect to find in a gin. So, it's and at the end of the day, the most important thing was it tasted good.
Absolutely. It tasted very, very good. I think the Aberdeenshire thing's a great link. You've got the Alpha Strong, you've got the Stovies. Fraser's come in with nae being fickered with as a.
That's good. We can also tell Chris's mum that as well. We don't have to.
And that's the kind of angle. You're talking about sales pitch. Do we need a sales pitch? We very, very, very rarely need a sales pitch for your stuff because it sells itself. But we've got all the sales pitch stuff there, and that's the wonderful thing about it. We've got all the information, we've got all the stories, and they're great stories. So it works really, really well. I wanted to ask: are you going to continue with things like Calvados and cognac and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've just bought some Calvados this week in white port cask this time, and it is absolute nectar. So I'm not sure what the plan is with that yet, and I'm sincerely hoping that it doesn't take us anywhere near as long to get the last cask in. But I think we know what we're doing a wee bit better. And we've already got a relationship with a haulier, whereas last time was not that long after Brexit. All the hauliers were pulling their hair out, and it did took the best part of a year to get that cask over from France. This time around, I'm hoping it'll be a bit more straightforward. It's a 7-year-old Calvados, again, Pays d'Auge style. So I find myself boring people intensely about Calvados, but something that really interests me. You know what I mean? So like we were out for dinner last night, and the poor barman there got like the full both barrels about Calvados. Like, he just clearly had no interest, but it didn't stop me anyway. But maybe all your listeners have no interest either. But here we go. Let's talk about Calvados.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's two main ways you would distill a Calvados. There's a Fermier style, which is single column distillation, and often that will be maybe a traveling still that goes around between producers, or it might be the setup in an individual distillery. And then you get Pays d'Auge style. Pays d'Auge is regionally specific, but it's also double pot still stilled. So you get a kind of heavier, more robust style of Calvados, and it's my preferred style of Calvados. So again, this will be a good age, high ABV. It's funny because with whiskey we often talk about cask strength, and when we do that, if you're bottling any whiskey, you're watering it if you're going to water it after it comes out the cask. With Calvados, they'll often water in the wood. Okay. So the cask will be reduced over a number of years by adding water. So not necessarily at bottling point, not exclusively, but that tends to happen. And so it's harder to get off in stock much more than that. So even a lot of very special Calvados releases are at 42, 43% ABV. Okay. The last one we did was it 53%, something like that? Yeah, the 14-year-old in the Japanese whiskey cask, and it was like unlike any Calvados I'd ever had before. It was just off the charts. Yeah. And this is hopefully more of a like you say, Mike, our stuff sells, but like if you don't know what Calvados is, it's very hard to explain that this is pot distilled, not column distilled. This is from a specific region in Normandy. This is full maturation in a Japanese whiskey cask. It's 14 years old, which, by the way, is extremely old for Calvados. It's not multi-vintage, it's single cask, and it is at cask strength. You know, that takes a bit to get out there when somebody's wandered into the shop, isn't it? So this will be a lower price point, but still like super, super cool Calvados, and just a bit more interesting than much of the stuff that is available to us as drinkers in this country. You know,
Yeah.
I would thoroughly recommend, for a number of reasons, to go to Normandy and spend some time drinking Calvados. But there are many, many other good things about Normandy as well, not just Calvados.
2 seconds. Hi, Tony. Yeah, Andrew says you have to take me to Normandy. There we go.
Cool. There we go. Yeah, let's go on an Inverurie fact-finding trip. Like, you know,
Absolutely.
So
I think you're actually taking a phone call there. How rude!
I know.
Don't mind me.
He does it all the time. It's yeah.
No, I've never taken a call on a Blether before. Never done
The
it.
first thing.
No, you've never. No, you haven't.
No.
You haven't.
I mean, the Calvados. Do you still have any of that left? Is that still available?
No, we don't. But I thought you maybe did, but maybe not.
I think we sold the last over Christmas, but it was one of these. People don't know about it. It's certainly, I know the last one I sold was it was in the window display, and one of our regular guys comes in, a guy Mike, who we only really know him as a rum drinker. He comes in, he loves a selection of rum, drinks rum. And he's like, "Is that Calvados in the window?" We're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I can love Calvados." He goes, "Go get my bottle of that," and off he went, happy as Larry, loved it. That was the last physical bottle I sold, but I think we might. I don't think we've got any left. I think we sold it over Christmas.
Yeah, well, I used the bottle on Monday night at a tasting in Inverness, and we had a kind of mixed thing. It was a kind of mixed audience, and they weren't like hardcore elite drinkers. Like so you have to kind of pitch it. And I'm not very good at not going over the top in terms of detail, am I really? So I struggled, but we did the unlimited edition gin. We did the Stovies gin. We did the Calvados, and we did a Wee Mungle 2, which was the last bottle in the warehouse that had a torn label, but it tastes the same. So it was like it felt like we're in a kind of drinking version of Bullseye. You know, like let's have a look at what you could have won, because pretty much the only thing they could buy was the first gin.
The unlimited.
Well, that's what we call it. That, you know, that's what we call it. That, and
Yeah.
you know, I think the plan with the rum is to do like this unlimited edition version of the rum too. So
the unfickered rum,
unfickered with. I mean, like we have to do some sort of commission for that name, surely. Like, don't rush out and copyright that, please.
A free bottle for Fraser. Nabin fickered with.
Unfiltered.
Unfickered. Non-fickered. Yeah.
Unfiltered and unfickered.
That's right.
Yeah, that works. That works.
There you go. There's his commission.
Your cheap Fraser, that's grand.
There we go.
Any size bottle, that size bottle will do grand, wouldn't it? That'll be right.
You didn't even see a bottle of the rum, just any bottle.
Just an empty bottle. Even better. And then if anyone is watching is friends with me on Facebook, you'll notice that I've been trying to sell 300 ml conical flasks. So I'm going to use this platform. Anyone who buy 300 conical flasks, you come to me. I'm your man. If Fraser can have flasks.
Yeah, what size? You say 300
ml flasks, but they'll take 350 ml if you want. Yeah.
Fraser, you can have.
There's not a massive market for that, really. You know, I just thought that would get snapped right up on Facebook. That's the kind of crap I see appear in my feed all the time. Like, oh, I fancy that.
Yeah. No mad scientists on the go in Inverurie and the local.
We've got the kind of exclusive rights on the mad scientist thing in Inverurie. So
I think there's more than a few mad scientists in Aberdeenshire, right?
Aye.
And is your because you're keeping the gins in the 50s, aren't you? Are your rum releases and all that? Are they all going up to 70s?
So we're just redesigning the gin just now, so that will go into 70s.
Okay.
But the latitude strength will stay in the 50s, just because otherwise you spend a huge amount of money in tax.
Yeah.
But if we imagine then that
I thought you were going to say it's we've got a shitload of 50 bottles. We're still
that too. I mean, like literally, Chris would have me bottling this in the 50s forever. But it's if you imagine the latitude strength is a bit like Ribena, it's just like gin concentrate, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to a bottle lasts longer for you. But it's no, the plan. The plan was when we moved down to the bigger site to go to the 70s. We always went with the 50s because we started at 350 mil. Let's not forget 50 for us. That was massive. We started with a 10-liter still, and even then, our 100-liter still is hardly Gordon's gin levels of production. So it was a way of sharing the liquid with more people. Truthfully, I think that some folk think we had some sort of bizarre, sort of cynical conspiracy for using 50 CLs for so long. And then if you've visited our old site, I don't know if you've been to the new site yet or not, but we just didn't have the space to run 2 different bottle sizes, 2 pallets, a minimum of 2 pallets of bottles, and the boxes have to be different sizes as well. So that we just didn't have the space to do that. We now do. And the plan had been to put in another gin still that was bigger, but we've just ended up, I think we can make it work with what we've got, and we'd rather spend that money on other things that we need. Chris is desperate to buy a forklift, but we just have to keep using the telehandler for the time being. So eventually the gin will go into the 70s. One of the issues that's holding us up is actually the supply of glass. And many producers have had issues with glass supply, various reasons. There were fires in some kilns. There was other issues, something called Brexit. We've heard of that, but that caused 1 or 2 minor snags.
No, that's a or something.
Minor blip.
Yeah. So that, and but things are beginning to improve. But it's one of the reasons why we have to kind of hold back the bigger bottles at the moment for the single cask releases and so on. But I'm hopeful that this year we'll have everything in the 70s and just keep the 50s for the projects and for the latitude strength stuff. It helps keeps the price down on the kind of madder stuff, because there's less of it and there's less duty to pay and so on. The actual cost of the dry goods there's not really much difference, in all honesty. But maybe folk are more willing to kind of have a punt at Stovey's gin that's at 50 CL rather than a 70 CL. Although, of course, the rules of the experimental spirit series are that we will never make it again.
So there's no more Stoveys.
No more. It was a one-off batch. That's it. Gone. Same as the maple syrup cask, the Project Versus Aether. That was a one-off batch. It won Scotland's best cask aged gin, and we still are keeping that as that's it. It's gone. We're not doing it again. So I think some of these things can still be found if you have a really good look on the internet. But otherwise, it's we've made it. We move on. For us, it's about it's a total indulgence. We enjoy dicking about the stills, for want of a better phrase. And even the core release of the gin, we do that because we enjoy doing it. Like it makes not massive financial sense to do it, because for the effort that it takes and the time that it takes and the resource that it takes, but we enjoy doing it, and we'd be sad if we didn't do it. So let's keep going.
It creates interest. I'm just waiting for the deep fried Mars bar edition.
Yeah. I mean, like I try. It sounds disingenuous from somebody that released a Stovey's inspired gin, but I try to do it without gimmick. Now, that sounds like shit when I just said that out loud, doesn't it? But I do try, and I think it was pretty close to gimmick, wasn't it? But I mean, at the end of the day, we weren't just getting a big old plate of Stoveys out of JG Ross and slapping it in still. It was more about.
I guess that's caught the headline, wasn't it? Was that the Stoveys? It wasn't. If you came out and said we're doing a gin that is inspired by neeps or it's got neeps and parsnips and all this other, the flavors that you had in it, it wouldn't have caught the headline. You need something to catch.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to stick true to the theme, if you like. So
Yeah.
We roasted the juniper for that one, which we don't usually do. We usually put the juniper straight and just. So we roasted the juniper, and again, it was about trying to create that kind of idea of cooking and roasting and that sort of thing. We used a bit of black pepper, again, just to give it that wee bit of spice that you get. You need a bit of black pepper to go with your stovies, and then of course the oats. Mm-hmm. They were there because you can't have a plate of stovies without an oat cake. That was they were in there as well for texture. When you distill with oats, you add a kind of level of creaminess. And obviously that was a completely different recipe to our standard gin. Much about what we tried to achieve in terms of texture with the standard gin is high oil content, and actually the parsnips in the standard gin that we don't really talk about very much because we're scared of sounding like it's there for shock value. We don't want to put folk off thinking, oh, parsnips, because it can be quite a divisive one, that. Mm-hmm. But they're there to provide texture and also kind of that kind of herbal flavor that you get from them. The first one, AFG, that had chervil root in it, and that's a fantastic ingredient. But it takes 2 years to grow chervil root, and you can so if by some absolute miracle there was a surge in demand for our gin, then you could be a year before we could grow enough chervil root, or 2 years. Whereas with the parsnips, we've got a bit more flexibility. We can grow them a bit more. I mean, massive thumbs up to Chris's mum, who did the bulk of the parsnip growing this year. She's got some outside and she's got some in big planters in the greenhouse. And we went to get some of the ones from outside the other day, and the ground was frozen so hard we couldn't get any of them out. So that kind of delayed the day's plans. But yeah, it seems random. We're talking about 1 minute, we're talking about whiskey, we're talking about Calvados, we're talking about rum, we're talking about gin. Like,
it's all in there.
I don't know how anyone follows what we do.
Just had Johnny Allen's just jumped on saying he's 39 minutes late. Have I missed anything? And I was actually
absolutely nothing, Johnny. Apart from some weird kind of like Tokai thing that Mike was trying to get set up with some of his followers.
I was midway through writing a response, and I was like, I don't think I could put this on the internet. I was like, we missed a great lesson on Calvados, Tokai twosomes, some mild child torture, and something about 300 conical flasks. Yeah. And I was just very pressed down, and I was like, I don't think I could put that on, so I'm going to delete that.
I do not want child services knocking on the door.
Well, we'll have the Facebook police all over that. So we're not. So if you want to know what that's about, watch back from the start when we're done, Johnny. We've also got Dave, who's watching on YouTube. Dave Ferguson. Can you visit LBD?
Yeah, I mean it's still a working farm, so we're not open to the public. But if folk are really keen, send us an email. We'll try and show you around at a time that suits you. We're just not a kind of visitor centre type place, really. Like I think my mum is desperate to create some sort of visitor centre, not because she thinks this would be a viable business thing or anything like that. It's just I think it's purely because she wants to make scones. And the fact that she lives 4 hours away and is recovering from a fairly significant stroke doesn't seem to put her off the idea of making scones. But I think we'd go quite stale waiting for folk to come visit us. Like,
oh, brilliant! We've got Juliet Buchan is jumping on a flight to Schiphol. Good evening, Juliet. Good to have you. Good. Thanks for watching. She's saying you're random but very entertaining, which is. I think that's
the tagline, isn't it? Our randomness is more random than yours.
That's the next T-shirt.
And Dave, I can see the comments now as well. So no, Dave, you can't. It's a show.
I was going to say that. No, Dave, you can't. You go to your local retailer and buy it.
That's right.
So exactly, buy it from Inverurie, which is local. We're not licensed to sell to the public off the site, so that's one reason. It seems a bit weird talking about our sales in front of you guys because but most of what we sell goes through retailers. We keep a very small amount back ourselves to sell on our own website, and the reason that we do that is that it means that we can reduce our margin so that we can keep the price of these things down a bit. I mean, I'd always like it to be less than it is. We do try to keep the price fair. But any bottles that we sell on our website actually get shipped out from Perth, from our distributor. So we're not putting them in the post office because, well, you know what like the queues are for the post offices near Inverurie, eh, Mike? And they'll shut up 20 times a day. It would take weeks to get your bottles out to you. Like, so.
Nobody knows the opening time of the post office in Inverurie.
It's a secret.
Yeah. It's getting, I'm really worried we're going to come into some sort of like, it's going to turn into like, you know, the geary community, whatever, chit chat thing. It's like community council meeting here, you know? And the potholes are terrible.
Funny enough, me and Janet were walking back to the car this evening. That's what came up. There's the potholes in the road. It's terrible.
And mud. You've got mud just now because all the farmers are ploughing the park. So
that was why you were walking, eh? You'd already burst your tire.
Aye. Right.
I'm going to pour another dram, guys. I don't know about you. And I'm going to go for your one of your big ones.
Aye.
They are in the market.
I never thought our 50cl bottles looked that small. Then when we put them next to 70s, they look tiny, don't they?
Yeah.
Ian's just trying to wind us up now. Like that's fighting talk. Oh. We'll come back to that once everybody's drunk. I mean,
no.
What's going to need to stop happening is the folk are going to need to stop making vases and lamps and glasses out of our bottles.
Yeah.
And
all comes back.
Then none of this keeping your bottles in shelves for years. You just have to scoof them within minutes and get your 20p back, like our 20p back.
Can you imagine the disappointment in returning a bloody Lalique decanter?
Yeah, I'm thinking 1939 Mortlach here, price £15,000 and 20p. Like that'd be cool.
You mean I don't get anything for the hands? It's just the bottle.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I've told this story on here before or not, but when it's actually 41 years to the day when I started working at King's Heath. 1982, 2nd of February 1982 was when a 16-year-old went out to King's Heath. But anyway, there was one of the kind of long-term residents off the hospital. One of these people that ended up in a psychiatric hospital and just got stuck there for life, long before there was any kind of care in the community and any of that kind of thing. But these guys would just get up in the morning and off they would go. They would sometimes have jobs in the hospital or they'd pop down to the village and go to the pub or whatever. But this particular guy came in with a handful of bottles to get recycled to get his 20p and buy himself a half pint. And he drank his half pint and, sort of just kept himself to himself and disappeared and came back another half hour later with another few bottles. And they got another half pint. Did this 2 or 3 times and the barman's thinking, where's he getting all these bottles? But he was actually going around the back of the pub, taking all the bottles in the back of the pub and then go in and get himself
I was we were at Hydro last night for a gig, and you get your pint of beer in this mad wee plastic cup, and you pay £1 deposit for your plastic cup, right? And then there's a wee manny that sits on a wee table, and you take your empties to him. No more than 6 though, but take your empties to him, and he gives you your money back, right? Now somebody had dumped a pile of these like that far away from the guy who had no queue. Like this is about 3 or 4 quid's worth sitting there, and I was like, I'll just have those as well then. It's like if they can't be bothered even just taking it to the guy that's sitting there to get £1 per glass, clearly the boy wasn't from Aberdeenshire, like otherwise it would be late like that. 20% the cost of the pint, like
absolutely.
Be like the Terminal, the movie with Tom Hanks when he's running around replacing all the trolleys to get his quarters so he could buy his McDonald's or whatever it was.
Well, I used to save up the bottles of Iron Brew and that when you're wee boys to get your 20p's. It was always pretty useful. Yeah. But anyway, we're straying into what my plan is to continue to bury my head in the sand and pretend that it's not happening and everything is going to be fine.
You are not the only one.
That vibe.
Absolutely not the only one who's doing that. There's so many guys I've spoken to are like, no, not interested until it's either too late and
yeah, there's probably a lot of folk listening that have absolutely no idea what we're talking about as well. That's what the interesting thing is, and even that. Anyway, we're not gonna talk about that.
Yeah, moving swiftly along.
So next,
we get back to giving away trade secrets instead.
Hey, so Stovies. Hey, this
Deed's wondering how you managed to shock David Stark on Facebook.
You see, right, very soon you'll find out. And all I'll say is, David Stark, prestigious author, can we call him that?
Yes.
Renowned independent bottler.
Yeah.
And has been, well, he's a very, very good sport, I will say. He's a very, very good sport. And that's one of the reasons I've not edited that video yet. I'm almost nervous that, this might be the one that goes too far.
Okay.
So yeah, 1 day for yeah. No, he's been very good to us. I fear that I maybe have just thrown that back in his face with the videos we've made with him, but we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be soon.
Will this be revealed in the book? This shock, or
I think I'm quite glad that he's written the book already before this happened, because I fear that I hope that he's not cut our chapter, or it's not too late for him to cut our chapter out of his book, because there may be a revised edition too, or something like that is a bit more scathing of us, maybe, perhaps. I don't know. We'll see.
Wow, God, tension. There's so much tension built up. Fever pitch.
It's funny because
you get Dave on next week.
The whiskey community is an incredible community.
Oh, let's do that. We'll get Dave on next week. Brilliant.
He's definitely coming on this year. So yeah.
So Dave, welcome along. We had Andrew from Little Brown Dog on last week.
I mean, I try not to give away too much here, but we went down, met him, and we filmed at a warehouse, and I'd asked permission for filming, and I'd said, we're going to do this, and they said, what kind of stuff are you going to film? And I'm like, I can't tell them. If I tell them, the game's over. So I just said, well, it's going to be like a talking heads thing, something like that, and they're like, oh, that'll be fine. Yeah. Maybe we kind of get set up, and they're getting nervous when they see these props emerging out of a bag, and then unbeknownst to me, they watched it all on the security cameras, and yeah, so yeah, so I'm looking forward to that one. But, yeah, that's a good whiskey. It's a good whiskey. That's the important part. The whiskey that's going with that one is a good one, and it is a cask that David and I picked together. So it's a collaboration, that one. So it'll be good, and it's just we just ran out of bottles in time at the end of last year to get it out before Christmas. So it'll be. Mm-hmm. It'll be out in January. What's this? The 2nd of February now.
Yeah. Surely you're not procrastinating that much. It's going to be January 24th.
Oh well, it's kind of a wee bit out of our control, the timeline in this one, but we're hoping to get out soon, and you'll be the first to know, Mike. You'll be the first to know. But yeah, so no, it's quite a few things looking forward to getting out this year. It's just trying to kind of think a couple of releases ahead, so you've got a rough timeline, but we've got some other cool things that are not quite home yet, and it's just trying to work out everything's going to fit out. Like, I'm trying very hard not to give away everything. We like to keep a little bit of tease on the go, But I'm quite excited about some things we've got, and I've just ordered some really, really cool casks. So we're gonna have some fun with some of those things as well. Not whiskey. The whiskey won't end up in all of them. It'll be there's a number of ideas for these casks. So,
do you use the cooperage and Speyside, or do you tend to shop around a bit? Or
we have worked with Speyside Cooperage. Really handy for us, obviously, and really, really good guys to deal with. Excellent quality stuff. Got an exciting project that we need to kind of finalize with them as well soon. I'm not telling you about that one; it's top secret. But that's probably one of the ones I'm most excited about, actually. So maybe some more information on that this year, but it's more of a long-term project, that one. And it goes back to our roots on experimentation and cast types and so on. So, I guess even with that kind of thing, it's being careful. You know, we don't want gimmick. We don't want the wood to dominate, but we want to create interesting things, and it's trying to find that balance, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, especially when you're dealing with whiskey, it's really important that the spirit stands up to it. And you know, there's a couple of whiskies that we're bringing out this year that are trying to kind of push against this darker is better, you know, and like I'm going to be bottling something quite soon that I'm really looking forward to getting out, because it's quite a pale whiskey, but my God, it's got so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to use that as an example to people to stop buying the most purple bottles that you can buy. I mean, we literally bottled the most purple thing I think we could possibly bottle. So, you know, again, it doesn't have to exclusively be about that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, D. Joe's saying amen to that. And your Port Charlotte was, you know, the oldest. And this is something that we keep trying to get across to people who maybe are in that buy with your eyes moment. Port Charlotte was it 18 years old, 19 years old?
18 years old, 2004 Port Charlotte.
And,
refill bourbon hogshead.
It's amongst the lightest whiskies you've done, and you've quite young stuff as well. And people are like, how can it be that old when it's that light? It's just in the casks. You know, you don't need to have all that older and darker. And it's
if you put that into first fill sherry, you would destroy what that whiskey was.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it would absolutely destroy it. And you know, it's the perfume that you get with that is just such a gorgeous dram, you know. And I've been heartened to see folk opening their bottles and enjoying it. And we've got that one into a few more bars as well, because there is a story with that cask, and it is a good story, and it's a story I'm quite proud of as well, because that whiskey, we're very, very lucky to get hold of it. Is the honest answer. I mean, the sad fact about Port Charlotte in particular, amongst other things, you know, Mortlach and various other things, it is becoming out with the reach of many of us, you know, and that particular cask, the chap that owned it was offered an awful lot more money for it than he was ever going to get from us, and even the amount of money he got from us was us pushing ourselves to really manage to get this, because there might never come an opportunity anytime soon for us to bottle something like that.
Yeah,
because the price of Port Charlotte casks has gone absolutely astronomical, and he could have got double, even more, if he really wanted to. But he didn't want that. He wanted people to drink this whiskey, and he felt that if it was in a little brown dog bottle, people would, and that means immense amount to us, you know, a lot. And he's delighted, and he's got to drink some of this, and we are delighted that we got to bottle it. And you know, when I first got the sample across my desk, because it was more money than we've ever spent on anything. The sample came across, and I needed to make sure we were going to taste this, because you don't buy stuff like that blind, you know. And I was like, oh my God, we've got to find out which of Chris's kidneys we have to sell to buy this. I need my kidneys, and he'll cope. But you know, to get that chance, and it's a trait that a lot of folk don't have these days. It's, you know, the highest bidder, whatever else. But it was nice, and kind of emotional thing there is the chap that bought the cask when it was new make spirit. He bought that when he was diagnosed with cancer, and he bought the cask because he was like, I'm going to get over it and I'm going to get better, and he did. And you know, he was maybe going to bottle at 10 years old, and then he was maybe getting time passes, you know. And I don't know if there'll be a few folk on here that own casks themselves, and it's amazing how quickly the time goes by. But then 18 years went by, and you know, it was ready for bottling, and it is really good liquid. And I hope a number of folk here tonight get a chance to try it, because it is lovely stuff. Like
it's stunning, and even at the price point that it was at, you know, I don't think it's too expensive. Single cask Port Charlotte, 18 years old. I think. Yeah, I think that's from the customer point of view. It shows you the faith that your fans have in you picking a liquid that they're willing to
Yeah, but I also hope that people realise that whatever they buy from us, we try to keep it as good value as we can.
Yeah.
You know, we want people to open these things and drink these things. And whether you're spending £45 on a rye or you're spending £205 on a Port Charlotte, I want you to know that we've done our absolute damnedest to try and keep the price of that down so people do get the chance to drink it. And it tells you a lot about Port Charlotte prices when there was about 4 other single cask Port Charlottes came out at the end of last year. And of the same age and type, ours was at least £50 a bottle cheaper than the next nearest one. And the most expensive ones were more than double that price. For the same kind of liquid, same style liquid, same age. And it's not a criticism of the other bottlers. We just were very fortunate to get the cask for what we paid for. We paid under the market value for the cask.
Yeah.
But it's not getting any cheaper, unfortunately. And so I hope those that continue to enjoy good whiskey still get the chance to taste it or buy it.
I suppose the easy thing for you would have been to look at the other prices and say, well, we could actually make a chunk of margin here. We'll put it out of that. But you want people.
I tried to keep it below the £200 mark.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other costs.
I'm picking you up here, Andrew. So
yeah. you look at it's not just the cost of the liquid and the duty and the bottle, cork, capsule, the transport. It's also the Spirit Drinks Verification Scheme licensing that we need to pay for bottling, labelling, maturing, blending, these things like that. These are all extra costs. Each one of those processes is the same cost to Little Brown Dog Spirits as it is to Glenfiddich. It doesn't go on volume, it goes on process. So we want to play the game. We got to pay these things, and I don't complain about it because it's really, really important work that Spirit Drinks Verification Scotland does to look after the reputation of whiskey in this country, and got to make sure that everybody's following the rules. So that's part of the process. But there's all these other costs that come into things, Just make sure you add every single one of them on. We have to, otherwise we go out of business very, very quickly, and there'll be no more LBD. So,
no, that would be it, obviously.
Yeah.
We've got Dean back on the call, and this is a great question for somebody like yourself. What's the dream creation for Little Brown Dog?
I don't know, man. I honestly don't know. Like when I first started doing this. Well, when the first bottles that had our labels on it which were not for sale, that's 10 years ago at least now, right? At that point in time, I thought if I can bottle one whiskey from each region, I'll be happy, And if we do that, we've not done well, have we really? Let's be honest. So the goalposts keep moving, and of course there are certain whiskies that you'd love to see, but I think also just like. It was really cool being in the Bon Accord the other night and seeing our stuff behind the bar. That meant a lot. That meant a huge amount. And going up to the Highlander Inn and Port Charlotte's behind the bar, Highlander Inn. Mm-hmm. These are like places that, as somebody that enjoys whiskey, mean an immense amount to me. And to see our stuff there next to some absolutely incredible liquid, that means an awful lot. That's how when I see people that are enjoying what we do. And are opening it and drinking it and sharing it, bottle share is fantastic. It makes sense then at that point, like it's. I get a kick out of that, and I think I don't think we'll ever be satisfied with what we've done. I think we always want to just keep going, and your next release is your next most exciting thing. So it's just, and you're only as good as your last release too. So we have to keep things going and keep it good,
Yeah, it's one of the big things about indie bottling, isn't it? You release a bad one, especially when you're doing, almost single bottle releases. Okay, the last one was a twosome, but if you look at guys like Freaking Flyers, Lady of the Glen, there's always kind of 5, 6, 7 bottles at a time. And if one of them, Money McDavid, yeah, but if they kind of don't do so much batches, I don't think. Do they? There's a few come out, But whereas these guys have designated kind of quarterly batches, to release 6 or 7 at a time, they could get away with one of them being not absolute quality. I'm not saying that this ever happened.
I,
But
I don't think that any of those guys would want that position, and
No.
I don't think that is a situation at all. I think I think we're although there are many challenges to bottlers just now, I do think we're living in a fantastic time to enjoy good whiskey, because there is a lot of choice out there. There is some fantastic stuff from a number of producers, and like if you've got a particular preference for a style of whiskey, you'll find it.
yeah,
It'll be there.
that's kind of what I was getting at. I maybe didn't put that across quite correctly. It was,
You just said everyone else was shit or something, Mike. I think you
Wasn't it? Yeah.
whereas if there was one of the batches that was to my liking, I would find something that was, and I would still enjoy that batch. Whereas if you're limited to one batch,
No, I know exactly what you mean, and I've said it myself as well. We're not doing hundreds of releases a year. We can't afford a Duff cask. We have too much pride in what we're doing to do that for a start, anyway. But equally, like we have got quite a high rejection rate ourselves. I think we hold quite a high standard to what we would want to bottle, because at the end of the day, I don't want to put anything into glass that I wouldn't want to buy myself. So like, I also want then folk to trust us. So if we do bottle something a bit more out there that you've maybe not tried before, that you'll trust us that this is going to be good. So that's the challenge. It's keeping the price fair, but us buying stock that folk can afford to drink. So that's why we've not been bottling 25-year-old Springbanks yet. So it's and that's not our market. That's not our market. But if we ever did do that, I'd want you to know that although the price would be probably sky high, that it would be fair and that it would be good juice.
I know somebody who's
for what Ian Croucher does. I think he's done some incredible things. He's bottled some amazing stuff. And take my hat off to him for managing to get to bottle the 31-year-old Glendronach. I think that's absolutely fantastic achievement. And I know it's expensive bottle, but knowing North Star and knowing Ian, that it'll be as fairly priced as he can make it. And I respect that, and I want to try and I want folk to think the same about us.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just going back to what Mike was saying there, there's a lot of things kind of floating in my mind in that sense. But some of the bigger, not so much bigger, but the guys who are releasing 7 or 8 bottles at a time have always got a sherry bomb in there. There's always going to be something that's going to attract interest in the next release. And I guess that's not happening with you, and I guess probably never will. So there is a bigger challenge in that kind of smaller release at a time.
Yeah, I think itinerary is a challenge for any producer, whether it's us or whether it's somebody with much more stock.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to just be pumping out sherry bombs all the time, because that doesn't do justice to the liquid a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. There's a time and a place for a sherry bomb, and I think that's why so many of us have got so many bottles of whiskey open at home, because you've got a different mood. Sometimes you want a big sherry bomb. Sometimes you want something a bit more delicate. Sometimes you want something's going to blow your head off from peat or ABV, and sometimes you want just something you can just have sitting on a table with a bunch of your mates, and it's whiskey for every occasion, really. I think. Every occasion, like within reason. It's like, getting a bit scarce these days, but apart from that, like shower whiskies, no. So it's you've got to mix it up a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think your core offering should be built up mainly off bourbon casks and sherry casks, because that's how the majority of us understand whiskey.
Yeah,
and it is fun to play with other cask types, and we have, but it shouldn't only be about weirder and wackier things all the time,
Yeah.
But it is sometimes fun to try a mezcal cask or something like that, So
is that a hint?
I guess also in terms of growth, I mean, you've obviously gone through a huge growth recently, and considering where you came from with the conical flasks and where we're at now, how far do you think? I mean, that's probably an impossible question to answer, but
Yeah, I think the thing that limited us before was both of our time. We're
Yeah.
both working other jobs and so on, and now,
Yeah.
it'll be nearly a year, but this has been it, and full time, and it does a couple of things. It frees you up to be available for conversations and for doing other things, and it's amazing how quickly you fill the time and how little time you end up having.
Yeah.
But it also holds your feet under the fire a wee bit. You've got to make it work, and you've got to give it the energy, and you've got to focus on it. So that has been the rate limiting factor till now, and then beyond that, it's the same as any other business. It's cash flow. You'll never have enough money to buy all the casks you want to buy. We're not just trying to buy stuff to immediately bottle it. We're trying to buy stuff to put down for a period of time, because in 10 years from now, I want to still be doing this. In 10 years from now, what is the average cask price going to be? I have no idea, and I don't think anybody really does, because there are a lot of external factors nowadays that impact on availability of stock and price of stock. And this idea of treating whiskey as some sort of tradable commodity is not healthy to the industry. So and I think as more and more interesting characters move into that game, and HMRC cracks down more and more on them, we may see that is a blip in the history of whiskey, or we may see in 10 years from now that there's more folk owning whiskey as a bond than they are drinking it. Which I think would be a terrible, terrible shame. But if I'm not buying stock now to think about bottling in 10 years from now, then I wouldn't have anything to bottle if that's the case at that point. So it is trying to balance those things. So you see, you could never have enough money. And there's some amazing whiskies that have come past my desk recently that I would absolutely love to buy, but it would literally mean Chris has to sell his house. So I can't sell my house. But one of the casks we got offered recently, even if we both sold both of our houses, we couldn't afford to buy the bloody cask of whiskey. That's how mad some of these prices are.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So that we're not bottling that. But
Did you get a sample of it though?
No. There's no point. Like we're not even going to pretend that we can afford to buy that. I mean, it was nice to be offered it. It's like, oh well, cool. You clearly have higher belief in us than we do. but we're not ready for that yet. But yeah, we whatever we do, I don't ever want to lose the ethos, the kind of drive for doing things the way we feel is the right way to do it, whether that's the distilling or whether that's the bottling. When you're as much of a control freak about that sort of thing as well, as we're never going to be a massive company, but I don't think we need to be. And one of the challenges that we've got right now is that we've got more interest from retailers around the country, but also from abroad. Not everything we do, but much of what we do is either single cask or small batch. There's a finite amount of liquid in these casks. There's a finite amount of bottles that we can produce and release. And we can't get to a point where we're giving a bottle to a retailer to sell. That doesn't it doesn't benefit the retailer. It definitely doesn't benefit us. So it's trying to balance that demand with what we can produce and not lose what it is that we are. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I mean, I guess it is that challenge. It's being a really good rock band and then getting signed up with a big label and having to do all the kind of commercial stuff. And I guess that's the kind of line you don't want to end up going down. It's been able to keep everything about the essence of what the brand is.
I mean, it's good to. It's good to be in that position to an extent, because it gives you some options and it gives you choice, and it's nice to be wanted. But
you tend to find that most of that rock bands that are signed up but churn out the next couple of albums are pretty pissed.
Yeah. Oh, that's the problem when you signed up by a big label. That's the thing,
So you want to keep it
Yeah.
quality, and I think Dean mentioned it earlier on. The quality is king.
Yeah.
Even if it is four releases a year, as long as they're good, people will seek out your casks.
Yeah.
And
we're
as long as
going
you
to have to do more than 4 casks a year, otherwise we'll go bust very quickly. But
yeah, it's usually important that you guys make a living as well. So, there's that kind of balance where you've got bills to pay, and
let's not talk about that. If my wife could talk about it.
No, that's slipping into politics again. Absolutely, yeah.
These high interest rates and high energy prices are fantastic when you're earning no money. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But that is a decision we have to make sometimes. And if it's a decision between buying a cask or paying our VAT bill or paying ourselves a salary, we are very much at the bottom of the pecking order there. Kind of, it's at this point in the business, it's more important that we're investing in stock and so on. And Chris could exist on about £4 a month, I think. So that's fine. You can do that for a bit longer. That'd be grand.
Yeah.
Had you ever considered a sort of community investment or sort of crowdfunding or anything like that?
I came up with this brilliant idea about crowdfunding recently. It's a bit of a novel take on crowdfunding. So basically what it involves is, rather than you pitching money to us for us to make something in the future, it's called, you can speed that process up. So what we do is we make the stuff and then you can buy it right now. and then that money then goes and funds the business. I think you could call it something like crazy, like, I don't know, shopping or something like that, or e-commerce, maybe. That. I think I might catch on, like. Yeah, no, it's we're pretty proud to say we've been self-funded and we've started very, very small, and we're still pretty small, but we're slightly less small than we were, and if we keep getting less small, then we'll make it work.
Well, there's an order through to you.
Right.
I guess you've gone to the
Yeah.
shop. You guys, Unlimited Gin Stovies and Port Charlotte ordered. He's
Wow.
apologising to me.
Can I come on this thing every week? I'll just sit where you are, Russell, and we'll just.
That'll be fine.
I'm going to point out that, Dave, we do have 2 of those in stock. We've got 2 Port Charlotte left and an Unlimited Gin. So you've just paid postage on a Stovies gin. So there we go.
Mike's gonna hate me now. So it was 3 visits. It'll be none again, ever again.
As you said, about going with your salary now and then. Yeah.
Never
I
mind
think I was feeding too much poverty there. I think. Thank you very much, Dave.
Never mind calling it scraping the barrel. We'll call it emptying the barrel.
Aye.
There's a couple of comments come through. Michael Cochran he got a sample through from the Iron American. He just finished it, saying he's not a Pete fan, but that was actually very nice. And Mia has come up asking a question: is there more money in gin or whiskey at the moment?
Mike, you're better positioned to answer that question than I am, really. I think so. Well, you've got better. You understand the way the products are going across the shelf.
Yeah. There's only been 1 year that we've been open. We've been 7 years now, where we've physically sold more bottles of gin than we have whiskey. But we sell whiskey, a range of whiskey. It's about 5 or 6 to 1 in whiskey's favour. So I think gin for us, what we see is the gin. People buy it for a gift, and it's opened that weekend. It's probably finished that weekend, so they're back. Our regular gin drinkers are maybe back every other week. Our regular whiskey drinkers are probably back, every 3 or 4 weeks, because it lasts that little bit longer, unless it's something special. So, but
you mean you mean there's people actually opening these bottles and drinking them? That's news. That's good.
Yeah, it's a thing.
That's the kind of customers we've got. I know they're really crazy guys.
No, that's good. I mean, I think just to be honest with you about us and the gin. I mean, if like we knew when we made the gin that we were not going to suddenly revolutionize the gin market. There's not much to contribute there, but our intentions for doing it were honest. The first gin we made was another fucking gin. It was about trying to, and it sounds incredibly cynical, and there was a little bit of cynicism in it, but it was more about trying to champion particularly some of the local producers in the area that we think we're doing fantastic things. So, and I mention them each time, but the guys at Blackford, the guys at Lost Loch, we wouldn't exist without them at all, The guys at Blackford used to sell us our GNS to make the first batches of gin at 10 litres at a time. We now buy the GNS in at 1,000 litres at a time. I met Pete and Rich through a mutual friend and went purely out of curiosity because, I'm a geek and I enjoy the understanding of distillation, whether that's rectified distillation or column distillation, pot distillation, rum, whiskey, gin, whatever. And it was my first experience of a rectifying distillery, going there and hanging out with them for an afternoon. And, at that point, understood that gin was more than juniper flavored industrial rubbing alcohol. That you could put your fingerprint on something and you could make something out of it, out of a blank canvas. And it was reasonably inspiring. I think they also met me at a very weak point where I was reading a book called The Craft Distiller's Handbook, and I would say don't ever pick that book up because it's the most expensive book you will read, because you'll read that book thinking, oh, I can do this, And I think there's a few other folk who made that mistake over the years, not just ourselves. So we make the gin because we enjoy making it, and it allows us to tell you a story about things that are important to us and that are interesting to us. So Aberdeenshire, the immediate environment around about us, and looking after that we tell that story through the gin. Because we're geotagging the ingredients, we're using as much local stuff as we can. We became bloody beekeepers to make that gin because we didn't want to use French pollen and we couldn't find people in the local area to put pollen traps in their hives. So we ended up becoming beekeepers, for one ingredient that is very cheap to buy, but we've got about £1,000 worth of bees and hives and suits and everything like that, So it would probably last us in bee pollen for about 10 years, that amount of money. But so that is why we do it. And, in terms of volume of gin, if we sold an extra few casks of whiskey in a year, you wouldn't need to make the gin. But we'd be pretty sad if it got to that. We make it because we enjoy making it. And I think we make a good gin. And there's a few other folk that think we make a good gin as well. And I love it when folk enjoy these things. And it's funny because there's so much criticism in whiskey for gin, but we get no criticism from whiskey people about independent bottlers. But it was interesting being at that tasting in Inverness on Monday night where we had the two gins, the Calvados and the whiskey, and people could not get their heads around the fact that we didn't make the Calvados and we didn't make the whiskey, that we just matured it, And because whiskey people understand independent bottlers, they understand the history of independent bottlers and how the distilleries didn't sell the whiskey, the bottlers did, and that Johnny Walker was a greengrocer. They get that, but when you but they don't like you using GNS for your gin. That's the interesting thing, and it's not across the board. But I mean that was my feeling about the thing as well as a whiskey drinker years ago. That bloody industrial rubbing alcohol flavored with juniper. It's not proper distilling. But it is, and I wouldn't trust Russell to touch my stuff because he'd break it. But I mean, if I did give him a distillery for the day,
totally would.
All the same ingredients, he'd make a different gin.
Yeah, and it's like there's and I say to people who kind of query that as well. Probably a much simpler way of putting it was Van Gogh a crap painter because he didn't make his own paper? It's like.
He's putting his own pigments, though.
yeah, he created that. The creativity is in the distillation, in that marriage of ingredients. It's not it's called neutral grain spirit for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think the closest I would get to Van Gogh was if I cut my own ear off. I think I think that's a very, very fair comparison to poor Vincent there.
Got some sunflowers on the
No,
go.
but yeah. So we again, I hope it comes across that we do it because we enjoy doing it. There's a creative process happening there, and it's a different way for us to create flavors. The first distillery we made with a 10-litre still in Chris's garage, it was 1,200 quid, and we had Project AFG on the shelf. You know, you couldn't do that with a whiskey distillery. As much as I would love to build a whiskey distillery and have product on the shelf for 1,200 quid, it's just impossible. The entry point is much, much, much higher. And you know, I think you asked me in one of the very first chats that we did on here, like, will we build a whiskey distillery? Like, I really hope so. But the more time goes on, and the more new whiskies appear, I get more and more nervous about it.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's some fantastic, amazing new whiskies out there, and there's going to be, you know, your favorite whiskey might not even be being distilled yet. The next new one could be your favorite, but it's getting harder and harder for these guys to stand out. You know, because we're almost, and we're not there yet. We're far from it. But there is a danger that if it continues at this pace, 3 or 4 years from now, there's 20 new makes on the market and a few aged spirits and so on, and that's great. But if people's only excitement is for the first release, then that's not going to work.
Yep.
People need to continue to buy stuff, and you know, it is tricky because you know these guys are going to start hitting their stride at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. But when you need to make money before then, and so if you've got a lot of young whiskies to sell, there's some fantastic young whiskies, but it's not as easy to sell, is it? You know, so it's I'm havering.
It's going to be a harder and harder market to come in with something unique.
It is, and folk are achieving this, and they are, and you know, there's definitely. I think you have to be really very, very enthusiastic to get into that kind of level, you know, because it's big numbers. But is that always going to be the case, or are we going to see people entering the sector as an investment as opposed to something that they really want to do? You know, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated by world distilleries and you know, in particular the Scandinavian distilleries, just because I've had more exposure to Scandinavian distilleries. You know, these guys and girls, a lot of them started off like us, just really, really enthusiastic about whiskey, and so they wanted to make something along that lines, and they're hugely passionate, and it takes an enormous amount of learning to be able to do this well, and that's why I think there's some fantastic distilleries in Norway or Sweden, because it's even going to be even harder for you to get to that level. It's much, much easier to say I'm going to build a whiskey distillery in Scotland than it is somewhere else. I think maybe, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, it's never underestimate the quality of these products. So
in Scotland, you're already in a market with hundreds of years of history and lots of distilleries here. But something like Sweden and Norway, it's an emerging industry, and so I guess you've still got the country to kind of catch up and take hold of that as well, which you don't have here. You've already got the audience.
I mean, I think it's a cultural thing for us. I believe this, and you know, but like in Scotland, we grew up with it. You know, so whiskey is the drink that you have at the births, the marriages, the funeral. I mean, when did you last go to a wedding and didn't take a hip flask with whiskey in it or something
Exactly.
like that? You know?
Exactly.
You got your Burns and your Hogmanay's.
And you know, and it doesn't have to be a fancy whiskey. It can be the most basic supermarket blend or whatever else. It still feels special in that moment, right? Yep. But when that's there and it's kind of taken for granted to an extent, it's a given, right? So if you live somewhere that whiskey isn't as accessible, but you have to work that bit harder to get the releases, and you have to learn the information, and then to make the pilgrimage and go and visit Speyside or go visit Islay or go visit Campbelltown. It's a big thing, you know. I think there's a huge amount of knowledge and interest all around the world about Scotch whiskey and whiskey generally, you know. And God, we've really gone off track here, haven't we? We've really gone down some sort of like bizarre kind of like.
There are no tracks. We will
pull it back. I mean, I guess from a whiskey fan point of view, I mean, thinking about new distilleries, and sometimes I think of it as well. Would you rather build another new one, or would you rather see some of the ones that are sitting idle, really making single malts and not just?
I don't know.
I suppose the third option would be to do something like a Ballandalach, where you decide right from the start, 10 years old is our first release.
Yeah, but you have to have an alternative way of funding it, and Ballandalach's got very specific ways of funding it, and I admire what they do hugely. Have you ever been? If anyone here is watching and hasn't been to Ballandalach,
It's
book
awesome.
a tour, go to Ballandalach. It is stunning. Like, you will learn immense amount about production, because it's all there. It's all there. You know that you can see the valves, you can see the flow of operation. You can read about the setting temperatures. Maybe. You know, it is a stunning place, and I'm really excited about, because I think the last time I was there was 2014 or 15 or something. I can't remember. Maybe not as long ago as that, but you know, I know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And you know, Daft Mill, another example. But these guys, that's fantastic. But they're not the normal way that a young distillery can make money, and it is tough. And so, yeah, I think there's a danger that our nervousness about what will be the whiskey market if we did make whiskey in 3, 5, 10 years time is enough to kind of hold us off that, because Chris is keeping me on a very tight leash anyway, shall we say, because I go off to like distillers conferences and come back way too excited, like, yeah, and he's like, no.
Chris, I bought a distillery. Is that you couldn't even afford a forklift? Fuck off.
Yeah, but you see, we'd find a way to do it because we would make the things ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
And we had the chap that you guys sent over from Australia that came to visit, that built his own stills and all these things like that. You know, like, Chris has got a welder. We could do this, you know.
Absolutely.
I hope he's not watching, because he'd be like, "You bugger off, you made your own bloody stills." I'm not really doing it.
Well, there's our USP, handmade, everything, literally.
What we'll do is, right, we'll get Chris to come in and do the chat, and I'll go and make things like out of metal and stuff like that.
I would love.
We'll see what the biggest car crash is out of the two of them. Like, I'm saying, me trying to make stuff.
I would absolutely love Chris to come on a chat. I think it would be.
Oh, you're the best.
I would love Chris on the chat as well, but Chris has no interest. He prefers being the sophisticated, silent one in the background, you know.
It would be outstanding. He's so funny. He's such a good guy.
That's all he
He's a very good guy.
We like Sparks. Who's the organist that used to play in Sparks? Do you remember? Too young for you. Maybe too young for both of you. You don't remember the band Sparks? No?
I do know Sparks. This town ain't big enough for the both of us.
That's
Kind of thing.
right,
Yeah.
There's a guy in the wall
Anymore.
behind Andrew who's about your age, Russell. He might know.
Sorry?
The guy in the wall behind you is about Russell's age. So
he's not as old as me. He's a kid.
He created the theory of evolution. What have you ever done, Russell? Yeah. I see, Ian. If you can convince John Campbell that that would be a great idea, I'll be well up for that. Like,
move north.
You know, it frustrates me because I think we could do interesting things if we were let loose with a whiskey distillery. You know, and we've got the barley growing at the back of the place and this and all this like that. You know, and like it would really be a. But then there's a lot of people now doing the kind of things I'd want to do. There's a lot of people playing with barley types, a lot of people playing with yeast types. A lot of, every new distillery that comes out now seems to be trying to kind of go for an even longer fermentation time. You know, like there's a lot of good whiskey going to be coming in it, and for the time being, I don't know if they need us to make any more of it. So
there's no shortage of investment in whiskey, is there? There's another couple, Campbelltown, there's more than Isla coming, one brand new and one coming up in Speyside. You know, confidence in the industry is really high just now.
Yeah, but I also feel like, oh God, I sound such a pessimist because it's an industry I absolutely love. You know, I really do.
I think it's
and I have the most amount of respect for the people that are doing these things because, my God, it's an undertaking. But you know, I'm nervous about it as well. It's not, you know, we have had boom and bust forever in this industry, and it's almost like every time we have a boom, we forget there can be a bust, and you know, there's always been a bust. So it's you know, it's
I suppose that put a positive spin on it is, one, you don't realise the booms without the bust, but two, more often than not, the majority survive the bust.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And they find a way through it. There'll be casualties, but probably these casualties are the ones who weren't prepared or weren't maybe ready. So,
yeah, I think one of the things that fascinates me beyond sort of like the productions of the spirit itself, the way that many of these new distilleries are looking differently at how you produce energy, right?
Yeah.
So like the boiler is rapidly becoming the fundamental part of any new distillery, not the shape of your stills or how big your washbacks are or whether they're steel or wood. It is how are you generating the energy for this?
Yeah.
And that's interesting,
Yeah.
And,
not only
watch the new Thompson Brothers build closely, because that's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
Really is going to be fascinating. And that if I go on like too sad, that's what excites me now, Really, have we reached peak geek yet? Is that the issue?
Not at all. We've got to go to telegraph poles yet. That's proper geek.
We're not talking about fucking telegraph.
That's a level of geek beyond geek. But no, so I think you're right with boilers. I mean, that's when we were up to Macduff with the academy in September. Obviously, they've kind of renovated everything there. They've got a new mash tun. They've got they've upgraded the still house. They've got new washbacks and stuff in. And the boiler house was the one thing that Wes, who showed us around, was completely excited about. And guys were just looking at this boiler, going, "Yeah, just it's humming away just quite nicely." But that is the part, as you say, the most interesting part about the future of the recyclability and where the energy is coming from. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, and we can't. It's a big industry in Scotland, and it has we do the farming side of things is carbon audits. You've got to do carbon audit for the farm. So why not for distilling? We've kind of managed to avoid that. And I think that much of the investment that we've seen in likes of current big distilleries has come preempting that, because something will happen at some point where there'll be a need to reduce carbon or be fined or something, but if you're going to be building a distillery now, there's it's very difficult to justify an oil boiler, and many of these places are remote, so you're not going to get mains gas. So how are you going to create your energy? And not everybody can build a biomass boiler. Ardnamurchan has the biomass boiler because they've got the space, the estate to grow the trees, and they've got enough space that they can keep growing enough trees and it will self-serve. But that's a unique scenario. So if you've not got that space, then how are you going to do it? And that is very interesting. There's a lot of really quite cool technology coming in now, and a lot of thought with the architects and so on and the engineers about how you do this and how you not just generate that energy, but how you use it most efficiently and how you try to kind of use that heat as many times as possible. We've had heat exchangers in distilleries for decades, but it's increasing the efficiency, because these are all massive costs for you as well now. Energy. Getting away from barley costs, that would be a harder one to do unless you start growing it all yourselves. But then your nitrogen costs are high, and your machinery costs are high, and your red diesel for your tractors high as well. So like you don't have any control of those things, but also it should be the right way to do things as well, I think. But how you make that heat and how you use it in the distillery, it's not going to excite people when you go in to talk to them about the flavors that come from your whiskey as well.
No, but there is this whole new level of, and not just whiskey geek, but environmental geek, of engineering geek, who are now looking at the whiskey industry, because energy is so much of a focus just now, in that renewables especially, and it's one industry that people can kind of almost look at, especially in Scotland, that they'll have a distillery nearby. Chances are that they could, and they'll know people who work there. So there's almost a community link to that and people are getting really geeky about it, and they are talking about it, and people want to know, how are you producing this energy? And I think it's a nice way of talking about whiskey being not just a drink, but a whole industry, and what we're doing to help that green side of things and that reusing it.
Absolutely, and you're just thinking about it now as well. Like that there are impacts on production and flavor potentially. Because how do you use direct fire with an electric boiler? You can't. But Dunphail, that's been the thing, is the direct fire. You couldn't make direct fire at Bimber and then not make direct fire at Dunphail. And I think many of us that are here that enjoy whiskey will have a passion for direct fired whiskies. So it'd be cool to find ways to do that, wouldn't it? If we had some sort of way of renewable
direct firing into their wash still recently.
That's right. Yeah.
And they've got a huge heat exchanger and recycle thing out the back now. And Kat has told me about 3 or 4 times how it works, and I wouldn't be able to tell you. But I
think the heat exchanger is also to power the kiln for the floor malting. As well. So I think a lot of the heat from that to dry the. So
you're getting that heat from the bottom coming up as well.
Yeah. I think these are all solutions that folk have to kind of think about and how you use energy. The average person that's buying a bottle of whiskey isn't necessarily thinking about these such things, but that is one of the pleasures of when you really get into this. Is laughing at Kat, laughing at you.
That happens a lot, don't worry.
Who thought at the beginning of this evening, when you were talking about weird Tokai things,
listen, you've got somebody
back, and we didn't talk about boilers and energy efficiency.
You've got somebody like Gordon Bruce up at Knockdhu who describes his distillery, his work, as a toy box, and he loves it. He almost wants things to break down so he can fix them. It's that kind of and there's definitely that level of engineering and technology and geekery within the industry. Well, there has to be, because it's a factory at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I also think there's a lot of folk that work in distilleries that think of localize. What are these numpties that get taking photographs of everything and woo?
I remember. So Tony was, I think it was when she was at Glengarry. It might have been when she was tour guide at Glendronach. Did the whole tour. So any questions? And one guy put his hand up and goes, "How many fire extinguishers do you have in the distillery?"
It wasn't me. I didn't ask that question for you. Actually.
He clearly worked in health and safety. Yeah.
That was more of a health and safety geek rather than and Ian's come up with a good point again on the vertical farming. Guys like McMeera are looking at this. He's the vertical farming out, vertical distilling, where you go, you just let things naturally come down, and that's another energy saving way that we can look at.
Mike, I don't think that's what he means by vertical farming. I don't think he's like
no. But when I first read it, and then as I
got the top of it,
drop the sheep in the mince box at the top. It just comes. No, that's not what I was talking about.
Smashing. No,
but I skimmed the question when I went back to read it. I was like, oh shit, I'm kind of jumped in. Vertical.
Yeah, but I mean, I think like field to. You talk about field to fork, but field to Glencairn, right? That is a thing that is interesting people right now, and understanding where the barley came from and all these things is really cool. Like I love that. That's fantastic, and it's good to see people doing that sort of thing. I absolutely love what Rassi did. I've had the immense pleasure of trying some of the Rassi barley spirit, and it's absolutely stunning. There's just not very much of it, and there's not going to be very. When they finally release this stuff, it's going to be like you're going to want to find some, because it was just so interesting. And Rassi is a terrible place to grow barley. Really, really, truly appalling place to try to grow barley, and they have to bring this wee pokey bee combine in from the islands up north. Like it's it's an endeavour and it's an admirable one, and I take my hat off to them for doing it. Like, because it just makes the whiskey world more interesting for the rest of us.
There's something dedicated about renovating a Land Rover to make it into a combine harvester and having to actually push it back up the hill. Having to push it back up the hill because it doesn't have reverse because you can't turn it. Yeah, I think.
I almost offered them Chris's combine because it's such a bloody antique, that thing anyway, that I'm pretty sure they could get it on the ferry to Rathy. Like, you know, it's not much bigger than the one they were using. It's slightly better than the one he had before that caught fire. So it's
So just the cat's put on there, it was Glengarry, and they then went round and counted all the fire extinguishers.
How many are there, Cat?
At least next time somebody asks, they will know. But yeah, going back to Ian's vertical farming, I know I got a little bit quick off the mark, but vertical distilling is something that's being looked at as well. Listen, guys like McMeera are building their distillery in such a way that they don't have to use
Port Leaf
to be Port Leaf.
I'm going to try and drag something in my memory here, but there was a distillery in Glasgow that was a massive vertical distillery and it burnt to the ground. Which one was that? Was that Kinclaith? Was it? Someone will know.
Somebody will know. And if they don't know, somebody will Google it and then pretend they know, which is always great.
Well, I can't Google it because I'm on this call. But I think it's because it was vertical. I think the fire was even more spectacular. Yeah, and I'm sure they will have thought about that nowadays.
Yeah, there would be the danger of it. But nowadays, I think that would be. That wasn't quite recent, was it? No, you're talking about.
No, that was like 19th century or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't Kinclaith, but it was. I'm sure there was. Was it the Delphi distillery?
The Delphi, did it burn down? They certainly had the big. They had the big. The washback that they collapsed, and it was
maybe something like that.
People drowned and horses drowned.
Yeah, I think that there was a vertical issue or something, but yeah, that's just I didn't gen up on that before we chat. Like I just literally got off a train and sat down here for you to talk at me about probably the most bizarre kind of like spin the wheel of whiskey shit chat you can ever imagine. Like,
I mean, if anyone's sitting home with a whiskey chat bingo card, they're screwed. Yeah. What's your favourite whiskey? What distillery would you buy?
We haven't even managed to talk about being in the bath together tonight either. So that's.
Well, I haven't even mentioned the bath yet. No. Yeah, that came up.
Yeah. That's been a conversation, Andrew. Believe me.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys do you.
Yeah. Telegraph poles.
Baths. Combine harvesters. Yeah.
Combine harvesters.
These are a few of Russell Brinklo's favourite things.
Absolutely.
Rutting with stags.
So I'm sure next week normal service will resume. You'll have somebody decent on again then.
Who is next week, Russell? Do we have a confirmation? No.
I'm waiting to hear back from a couple of people, but yeah. But yeah, I think it's going. I'm going to have to chase Dave Stark up. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll just
go back then.
We'll say if you haven't been on, you haven't seen one of our blethers, just watched last week with Andrew. That'll set you up nicely.
Aye. He's a good sport. He is a good sport. I hope he stays a good sport. I've got his bottle here. Look, I've got available all from all good bookshops. Yeah. It's just my desk just now is just a mess of hundreds of sample bottles, unwashed coffee mugs, and more sample bottles.
Sounds like a bloody good desk to me.
Aye. I say I much prefer when we do the chat at your place and we can drink your whiskey in the shop. That's good. Especially if mixing it with Calvados.
We got in trouble for that one. So I was in the bad books the next day as well. One for cracking open Springbank and mixing it with Calvados, which I thought was absolutely genius.
I think genuinely, like if if anyone here is lucky enough to manage to get hold of any Springbank these days, don't be too afraid to mix it 50-50 with Calvados. It's very, very good. I appreciate this is now like just us talking, and there's still maybe one or two people on the internet watching this, but it feels like we're just in my house having a chat. I was speaking to a friend of mine the other day. We went fishing years ago, and we had a bottle of the 12-year-old Springbank that was 6 years in bourbon and 6 years in Calvados. And I bought it on the way up the road to go fishing, and we had this on the boat, a few of us, and we drank it, and it was absolutely bloody good. I thought it was so good. On the way back down the road, I bought another bottle. Remember that? Remember when you could do that?
You could actually do that. That's right. Springbank. I'll have another one, please. Thank you very much.
Oh, it was good. Let's go back and get another one. Fantastic.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those days. And now you get. We're unfortunately one of them, but they have cut a lot of their retailers now to appease markets.
Yeah, it is tricky. It is very, very tricky, and I have a huge amount of sympathy for them because it's not. I'm sure they don't want to do that, and I'm convinced it's not an easy decision for them to make.
No.
And it's a very difficult position for them to be in. It's a hugely difficult position for retailers to be in, and it's also a difficult position for consumers to be in as well because, like for many of us, it was a cracking whiskey that you would drink and you could get.
And it's a sad thing.
You still can, but it's just a wee bit harder sometimes,
We championed them for a long time. Yeah, and this is not so great. I know a lot of guys do. Springbank were great because, and they kind of found themselves in that unfortunate position of having to do that because of this new trend it's grown of buying, collecting, reselling, and Springbank was something you could always kind of have in your shelf. But people started looking for alternative limited releases and things that were small batch. And unfortunately, they just found themselves, they weren't prepared for it. And there was this whole COVID thing where they had to cut production as well because they're very much a hands-on, as we all know, 100%. It's very great at glass, pretty much, in the distillery. And they can't just, they're not one of these distillers, we'll just make more. They're just not physically capable of doing that without getting away from the ethos.
I was reading something they put online recently about how they mash the local barley and how it's like the least popular job and everyone tries to take their holidays that week. But the detail was fantastic. And this is one of the things like I really love about companies like Springbank, but also like generally I think that we've seen a lot of distilleries, Dornoch in particular, when you get their email in the month and it tells you all these cool things about the super long ferments they did over Christmas and the yeast that they're using, and also Aaron and Lag and these guys doing, just being really open with people about the process. I find that fascinating. I think it's great that we're in a position in this industry where there's that hunger for knowledge that folk are interested in reading about how you adjust the rollers for different grain types or whatever else. It's,
I guess distillery guys are just fed up of answering the questions to every single German who goes on a tour. So they say, look, read the email, you're fine.
I really hate being question guy. I really do. But I mean, like, sometimes my curiosity gets the better of me. And I was down in London recently and I went to Bimber and the guy who was doing the tour, he was sick. So this other guy got pulled in at the last minute. And like, I was trying not to sound like a dick because, it's always that dick that always asks the questions. They're not really asking questions. They just want you to know that they know stuff. But I was genuinely interested. And it's such, like, again, Bimber, what a fantastic place. Like, it is so cool. It's like, I felt if we were building a distillery, that would probably look not dissimilar to that because it would be in whatever unit we could cram it into, and it would be, it would be about fermentation and these things like that. So I kind of like hugely love what they do, but I was just so interested. I think I let my excitement get the better of me, and this poor guy that had been drafted into last minute had to put up with all my bloody questions, that he wasn't very excited about. But Anyway, I'm ranting again. We're havering. The haver.
It's good. It's good to haver. It's good to get it on.
I was just going back to a thing about remember those days when you really enjoyed a bottle of whiskey and you thought I'll get another one in. They're so nice. Are you finding that actually, as some of these ones that you would want to maybe drink a bit more, but they're harder to get, and you eventually do get a bottle, it's actually becoming harder to open it at times. You know, maybe like a Springbank 15 or...
Yeah. I don't know. How do I word this? I think we're in danger. We're in danger of militarizing opening bottles or not opening bottles or whatever else. It doesn't have to be like that. Like, I love it when I see our bottles being open, but there's a lot of times where you might need to say something like that for a special occasion, you know, a wedding or whatever else, or and there is a certain joy to be had about opening something quite cool because it's a Wednesday night. Like, I love that, but that's a luxury for a lot of us. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that genuinely meant to open that bottle, and then it gets to worth a point where you just can't. Yeah. Because you can't afford it. You can't afford it. You could afford it at £50, £100, or whatever else, but at £1,000 or more, it's a different proposition, isn't it? Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's more complex for most people than just collecting, investing, or drinking. It's most of us are in the middle, somewhere in the grey, aren't we? It's hard as well, because I mean, like, I often I've got too many bottles of whiskey open. I mean, that wall's open, and so it's you might, if you only have one dram at that bottle, it's wasted. It's you got to, and you often find as well, you go back to about 3 or 4 at a time, and then you finish them, and then you go to another 3 or 4 or whatever else. But it is always nice to open it, find out what it tastes like, and then it's there. You can open it. You can take the cork at any time.
Yeah.
But it's I think that there are only a few occasions where if someone doesn't know me and I'm buying a bottle of whiskey and it is something rather nice, I don't like when I was in Springbank and I was buying some nice bottles in there. I just was, my biggest fear was that the wifey thought I was going to sell them at auction. I was like, honestly, like, I
am going to drink these. I am going to drink these. Yeah.
The more you protest, the more you sound like you really are. And I broke the seals in the shop. Just be like, but then also it's a bit willy waving, that kind of thing as well. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Like, just it's your bloody whiskey. Do what you like with it. Enjoy it. But let's try and enjoy a lot of these things if you get the chance to do it. Because that's what it doesn't exist until somebody drinks it.
I totally agree. I remember when the Glendronach 15 was getting pulled, and the dairy. Remember the dairy in Inverurie?
I remember the dairy in Inverurie.
Yeah, and
£30 a bottle used to be.
Yeah, and I knew when it was getting pulled. There were 6 bottles there. I grabbed 3, and a couple of my mates grabbed a couple, and I drank a lot back to back, and then discovered later on they were going for like 150 quid. And the regret I had must have been minuscule. I just thought, I actually much prefer the fact I drank them because I enjoyed them and I can remember them. And
we're very lucky that we got to drink those whiskies for the price that we're at. Yeah. And there'll be, who knows what the future will be. But it may very well be that there's people looking back in these times with exactly the same sentiment. Yeah. Oh God, do you remember when you could get, for 100 quid? Oh God, it's 500 quid now. I don't think that will be the case. I hope it's not the case. One of my fears is that we have this widening gap in whiskey between the very, very cheap end and the very, very expensive end. And how do you get new people to like whiskey that are going to spend £1,000 plus on a bottle, or 500 or even £100 plus on a bottle? Yeah. If it's that or 20 quid, there's not that progression, because and that's really not the case just now. But it does feel like this with the bigger producers, there is this gap opening up a bit. Yeah, and I think that is the gap that a lot of independents are moving into, which is good. But also, like, gosh, it's getting dangerously political here. But it isn't easy as an independent bottle shop to get the stuff that people are looking for from independent bottle shops, if you have to take 30 cases of the basic whiskey that you can buy in a supermarket or online on Amazon for less than you as a retailer can buy it. And that's tricky. So how are you going to educate the people that are coming into your shop that want to learn about whiskey, that haven't had the chance to try a single cask or cask strength or whatever else? Where is the progression in that? If it's 40% chill filtered or £20,000, you know?
I think there's a couple of things. There's certainly that. And what we're finding is a lot of guys, producers, Berry Brothers, Lady of the Glen, Dramore, are looking at that blended malt, affordable, £30, £35 maybe. In the case of Adelphi, they've got the private stock. So I can see going forward that blended malts become that kind of really nice, off the shelf, buying affordable kind of drink that people will go to drink. Single malts, as you said, there's just that progression. It's getting more and more.
There's vatings as well. I mean, Murray McDavid are doing some great vatings just now, and so did James Eady. James Eady do some great vatings that are really affordable. So that's going to be an access point that we're going to have access to, I guess. Which
it definitely feels like there's a bit of movement behind that, doesn't there? And you know, I think it was North Star themselves when they did the last two blends. They said they think that 2023 is going to be the year of the blend. You know, and there is a lot of really good choice of really good whiskey out there now. But again, it's still a challenge to get the stock at the right price, and particularly in blended malt. You know, and I think we need to also have some respect for blended Scotch as a category as well. You know, because like it can still be very, very, very good. You know, and you need that bit of grain sometimes to keep the price down. You know,
but I think the information that's out there and the level of knowledge that the customer has, and let's not forget that customers are always going out for information. The access to information is there on their fingertips. You know, 3 years
great. There's very, very strict rules about what you can write physically on the label.
But they'll find out.
You can't publish breakdowns of casks on the label because the argument is it will cause confusion. I think we're trying to be very clear about these things, but I also, you know, there would be less genuine people that maybe try to make more of an influence about the older stock and something like that and cause confusion. I think I get that, but it is good that you can publish that stuff online and you can make that information available to people because people are interested. Well, I am interested, you know. You know that what it is we're doing, and again that would be the plan with the rum. That we're launching the rum before we're launching the blended whiskey because we've got the access to the rum stock that we need to make the blend that we want first, just by the way it's worked out. But my intention, if Chris lets me, and it doesn't mean that we spend our entire lives labeling bottles, to use the same idea, obviously with the gin, we're geotagging the foraged and grown ingredients and we're publishing that data. And the gin will have a code on the bottle that you can scan and you can see that when you're standing in the shop holding it in your hand. The idea with the rum would be to do the same, and that we publish cask types, fermentation types, you know, whether it's cane or molasses, distillation types, column pot, geographical location. I don't think we're allowed to publish is the names of the distilleries, but it would not be too difficult to work out some of these, you know.
There'd be what 3 words clue or something.
No, and I don't think we get away with that, but maybe who knows? Like who knows? But we've got to make sure that we don't piss our suppliers as well.
What 3 anagram words? Maybe would be.
Yeah, see that bottle we did for you, Mike. We did that. I'm sure. Ian, I'm glad you're still watching this because I think everyone else has gone to bed. But Compass Box did. But they enjoyed the fight. I would say Compass Box enjoyed the fight as much as anything else. It was good publicity, and it was a good fight to have. I think I was definitely on Compass Box's side for that one. And Bricklady as well. They had some issues. And Aaron. I think the Devil's Punch Bowl. They published the first one, all the cast types used, and they got kind of don't do that again type thing.
Well, that's why Mark Rooney left Bruichladdich to go to Waterford, because they were quite happy for him to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Different legislation though. Irish
Yeah.
whiskey versus Scotch whiskey. But
There you go. Whiskey Wordle. That's a great idea.
That secret Highland one that we did for you, Mike.
Yeah.
And there's still people that ask, "Oh, what distillery is it?" It's like, why do you think there's 3 completely random words written on the label? I mean, I know that what 3 words isn't well known, but they're sure as hell not tasting notes, like, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's maybe they maybe think it's an anagram. They maybe think.
yeah, maybe it's
all the
challenging.
Wonderful notes of twinkling shirts in here. It's just fabulous.
Yeah. Oh, I quite like that. I did check with the guys we got the cask from that we could do that before we did, because we have to be careful, but they seem to think it was amusing enough that we could get away with it. So, you know, but it's I do also like seeing when folk come up with exciting names for various different distilleries, you know. Candle Kitty, these sorts of things like that. I think that is a brilliant name. Like, you know.
It's very hard, given the information that's out there, given the access that people have to brand ambassadors, to distillers now with Zoom or virtual tastings or stuff like this. It's very hard to keep a secret, you know, an undisclosed distillery 100% secret, because somebody will say something somewhere that it spreads.
I think as well, there's then room for like rumor to actually provide false information, which really we don't want.
Yeah.
So you know, it's not always helpful just to have these. You could if you were struggling to shift something, you could say, well, actually, it's actually this. It's actually 25-year-old Springbank in that, you know. I can trace this. I can trace the springs in it and everything. It's great. It's you know, trying to get that balance, I suppose.
Yeah.
And because these things you can't use because it's a brand name, and that's fair enough. I respect that as well. But as bottlers, there's always a way around these things. But I did enjoy doing the what 3 words in that one. I think that was good fun.
Yeah. And did you go through the whole distillery to find the best? Or it was the still house.
I would spent ages in Google Earth trying to work it. Like, I was making sure I was getting the right wee box for the still house, because we always try to tag the still house with these sorts of things like that. You know, we did it a few years ago. We teased what the next release was going to be by releasing 1 word a day for 3 days, and it was like 3 people found that mildly amusing, so we didn't do it again after that. But it was about trying to find the still house and do that, you know. Because otherwise, what part of the distilleries you pick? Because sometimes these are quite big sites that go all over. So, you know, geotag the disabled toilet or something. You know, still house seems to be more appropriate. Yeah, we kind of talking recently about the geotagging, and kind of I was trying to kind of you know, bully Chris into let me put the geotag information on the bottles for the gin. And it was quite funny actually, because kind of talking about it again to an audience, because we've talked about it in the past, but it's just reminding people that we do things, and every week there's people that are finding out about us and what we're doing, so they've never heard stuff that we did 2 years ago, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was a couple of folk that said, "Oh, I mean, I think it's good that you share this, but you know, aren't you worried about people coming and foraging in the area?" And I'm like, yeah, it's a valid concern, because I think there has been some issues in the past in some places where foraging has become very, very, very popular. But I mean, the truth is, most of this stuff is on Chris's farm anyway. And we haven't yet had hordes of people traipsing through the fields to get to Chris's mum's greenhouse and that all. And also, like, the kind of things that we're using are deliberately abundant. You know, we deliberately made sure that we weren't using anything that couldn't sustain us foraging or on any kind of scale, and kind of based it on that. You know, we're not going to damage the environment doing what we're doing. We're not going to damage the environment if suddenly 100 people showed up. But I'd be staggered if that happened. You know, these things are abundant and they grow all over the country. So it's not. There's some skill with some of them, like tapping the birch trees. You've got to know what time of year. If you went and tried to tap a birch tree right now, you're going to get absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
You try to tap a birch tree in the middle of summer, you're going to get absolutely nothing. You've got that 2-week window to do it, and so like we're not expecting people to show up and do that either. But it's more about that idea of just being honest with people about how things are made and giving information to the people that are interested in it, and try to share some of that geekery,
And I suppose if they did turn up, he says, "Yeah, I'll show you how to do it," and get them to tap them for you. And then you
yeah.
Like, I'll go.
Do you know, it's one of my favorite things that we do in the year is tap the birch trees. Like, I really, really enjoy that, and the kids will enjoy it. I mean, I've got if you just put when you get it right at the right time of year, once you've made your tap, it's pouring out, and I've got a picture of my daughter basically like with her head underneath it, just catching the sap before I put my bag on to like, and I'm like, what would folk think, Andrew,
listen, you single-handedly made me feel less of a weirdo as a kid, because as a young child growing up in the Highlands with very little access to sweetie shops and such like, I used to regularly eat beech leaves because they were tasty. And seeing that beech leaves was one of your botanicals made me feel a whole lot more normal.
I know, and I mean it's there for a couple of reasons, the beech trees, but predominantly because I'm a sentimental bastard, and the very first gin recipes I played with were cold compounded beech type gins.
Oh, really?
And like beech leaves are quite cool. If you obviously when we're using them, they're like really, really, really fresh. And they're like lime green, and they're papery soft, and they're kind of zingy and lemony. And if you get them too late, they're too bitter. Yeah. The beech tree leaves, you'll see the trees right now on the hedges, whatever, the dead brown ones. You can make tea out of them. You just stew them in hot water, and you can make a tea, and it's quite pleasant. So we're not going to end up with stripping hundreds of beech trees of leaves. Like it's not going to happen.
We're going to go about like giraffes, just.
Chris and I aren't the tallest people, so anyone taller can get the flowers, the ones that are above what we can reach.
Yeah.
I can't think of a more diverse blether, more geeky blether.
Well, I mean, my wife's like, how long is it going to take him? I don't know, an hour, like 2 hours.
Every week.
If anyone sat through all this, they deserve a medal. Go to the whiskey shop tomorrow. Tell me something. I'm sure Mike will present you with some sort of award.
We should. We should do some kind of code word at the end. If you've been here all day, all night, here's a code word to come into the shop.
Or Russell has to wear a hat and change it every 15 minutes, and they have to get all the different ones,
That's right.
Yeah.
That would be it.
So,
yeah. We're going to have to bring something in to reward people for
staying up. We've still got a handful of people in.
Yeah. I was just looking to see. I love Ian's who's on YouTube. Whiskey Wordle. Have a Wordle. I don't know.
You've been triggered with.
Wordle, you have to guess the word, and that word is distillery or something. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, you see, so this is completely off topic again, and 99% of the no interest in what I'm about to say. We've been playing Wordle recently with some of my friends on WhatsApp, and only found out today that I've been playing a completely different version of Wordle than all of them. And the only reason I got it in 2 today, I was quite proud of myself, and they're like, how the hell, what was your first word? That doesn't even make sense. How did you get that word? I'm like, and so like, I'd also found out there's a really easy way to cheat on Wordle when you're playing with your mates, is that it just makes emojis to make the ticks or the green boxes or whatever else. So like one day I would got it in like 5 or whatever, but I just changed it to all grey first line and then all green second line, and it looked like I got it in 2. And I thought it was hilarious. Like, how did you do that? I'm like, oh, it's quite easy. You just edit it on WhatsApp. So I was ready to be accused of doing that again this time. So I screenshotted it, and that's the only reason we knew I was playing a completely different game to everybody else. Yeah.
Brilliant.
That's more random shite for the night. There you go. That'll do.
No.
Well, that story has gained us 2 more viewers, Andrew. So,
All right. Okay. Bloody hell. Watts will be busy tonight. Like,
Wordle must be trending. We've never had that fridge guys back, have we?
No, we did get. But that was weird. We just got like trolled about fridges.
Yeah, incredible.
Of all the things to troll us on, and that was the one they picked.
But well, you were literally sitting in one in the field, freezing.
It was bloody cold that night. It was bloody cold. But that was also a good reason to say that's enough. That'll do. If anyone wants to start trolling us now, that'll do.
That's it. That's the one.
I was just you're talking about the Arctic Circle or the Scandinavian single malts, and I just remembered I've got this wee sample in here to open up and try the Bifrost Alheim.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
they've got quite a bit new distribution in the UK, haven't they? Just come through. They've got Akavit and some gin and some whiskey and things like that, haven't they?
Yeah. The so they've got it's like a liqueur. It's more like a herbal liqueur that they have. I'm not sure if they've got gin. They maybe do, but we were lucky enough to get a couple of bottles of this to sell of the Helheim, and it was one of these like 3 seconds. It's online, gone. It's like superly sought after stuff. And,
It's cool to see folk excited about these things. That's good though. Yeah.
It was something I was going to say back when we were talking about the collectability resale and stuff, and you find you do kind of feel sorry for guys who are buying things in the best of interest and say, was in the shop, God forbid you manage to buy something off the shelf nowadays that's limited, and then they give it their gift, and somebody's wow, amazing, and they're ready to crack it open, or they've cracked it open, or further down the line think, I'm going to open that, and with the power of Google or whatever, they Google and say, oh, I wonder what this is worth, and then see it going an auction for £700, like, I can't open that.
I know. It's something I don't feel comfortable talking about. Is like the secondary value of our bottles. It doesn't really sit well. I don't want to be seen to be promoting it. I don't seem to be. I just don't want to talk about it. But it is tricky. And recently,
Russell texted me. It was one of his first when we had that Glenallachie bottle that was amazing. Russell texted me the screenshot, and I can't remember. It was an auction site anyway, and it went for like 75 quid. And we were just like, yeah, that's it. Like, you've lost 20 quid. Brilliant.
I think
we'd be happier than it going for £200.
When we still had some, somebody bought one for 100 quid, and I think you messaged, you could have just come to the shop, would have sold it for 95.
Yeah.
What are you buying an auction site for 100 for?
We had recently with the Wee Mongrel 2, and there was a web page selling it secondary retail. Not a company we deal with.
Yeah, seen that. Yeah.
But I was tagged in this because obviously folk were getting a bit excited about it, and it made me realise that it looked like a shop. It looked like that might have been the retail price. There were some people who were seeing this and thinking this is ridiculous. This was a 50 cl blended whiskey, and what a stupid name the guy said as well. And I was like, oh, thanks. My wife came up with that name, and it's like, well, like if that was the first time you saw one of our bottles and you assumed that's what the cost was, you think we're just a bunch of robbing buggers, like
Mm-hmm.
And like I hope because we're known by a few folk that like whiskey, but we're not well known. So I really hope that when folk find out about us, they find out about us through guys like yourselves as opposed to secondary market, and because we put a lot into trying to make these things affordable and drinkable. But it was also heartening to see like this poor chap that had left this comment was pounced upon by like a lot of people who tried to put him right. Some of them more amicably than others, and very much to the chap's credit, like he kind of took on board what folk were saying, which I thought was also very nice as well. But
Yeah.
it is tricky. It is tricky, and it's not for us to judge how folk what they do with the bottles, but it's just part of what whiskey is these days. But we will continue to do what we enjoy doing and hope that more people enjoy it with us rather than try to profit from it.
We'll certainly continue to drink and sell what you continue to do. So
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and thank you again for the support that Inverurie Whisky Shop gives to us, because you are our local shop, and you do a great job of telling the story of what we do, and it's an absolute pleasure. So thank you very much, and thank you for letting us come on to things like this and talk about Wordle and other things that are completely irrelevant. But thanks, and thanks everybody that sat through this and watched it in the comments as well. It's good fun getting the feedback. Yeah,
I want whoever's watching who has been here since 7:02.
I think Dave and Ian have been.
Ian, I think James has been here. Maybe Kat, is she still hanging on?
You must be paying Kat. I hope he's paying you to be here because you are an employee, and
it's all part of education.
It's a CPD, maybe. I think this is definitely yeah. Kat's commenting to prove that she's still here, and each comment is probably, I reckon, £5.
So guys, this has been Andrew's third and final visit. No, thank you very much, everyone who has watched this all night. Thanks for sticking with it. I think what appeals, Andrew, is to the Blether is that we do go in tangents. There's no script. We don't as loosely as we can.
Shit was a good. Could you imagine that? I mean, like.
Yeah, we didn't see Keith tonight.
No Keith. No Dave.
No Dave.
No Dave Muir. No Dave Muir in the bath. Yeah.
I hope he isn't drowned in it.
No, I'm sure he's.
I'll maybe give him a shout after we're finished.
Poor man will be working hard, I'm sure.
He thought, I've already seen this twat twice. I don't want to speak to him again. Like,
what could he have done in the last year that's different? But, yeah, Dave, you come in and you can pick up that reward that you thankfully paid for while we were sitting. Anyway, we'll make sure you get something a wee bit extra as well. Don't worry about that. So James has said his wife, the excise officer, will sit patiently through his tasting to drive home. That's dedication. Absolutely brilliant. I'm just going to pour out a wee last one of this, Andrew, and I hope you don't mind, because I do want to. I haven't personally said my commiserations to you over wee Banksy. So
yeah,
I know. Thank you very much, and it was incredible the kind of messages that came in when we did that. She was a very, very, very special wee dog. I mean, of course she was, because she's got everything we do named after her. But when we did that, we knew exactly that this would happen at some point. She was very close to being 15 years old when she passed away. She did very, very well, and it's nice to have a wee legacy for her. So no, it's been, and I just wanted to do something special for her to mark that, and I got lots of very fond memories of her on the beach in Aberdeenshire, and we used to go there quite a bit. And so it was nice nice that we got to do that bottle for her, and it was also nice to see that Jenny and Connell and the guys at Aberdeenshire were all greeting when they saw the video that we did. I don't think my brother's been able to watch it all the way through yet either, and that's a given for most of our videos because they're so terrible. But he can't watch it all the way through because he keeps greeting. So I
think it's testament to what you do at Little Brown Dog. And on a serious note, Andrew, that you're able to make us look at videos and go, what the fuck? Make us laugh, make us think that's amazing, and then make us cry. And that's everything about Little Brown Dog that I love. The story is just multifaceted and brilliant, utterly brilliant.
Yeah, it pulled in heartstrings. Tony was in tears. and
I'm thinking about the bloody video, but it's not even watching it. I've not had a drink tonight yet, so.
But so there's a wee cheers to Banksy, the inspiration.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Cheers for that.
Banksy.
Yeah. Aye.
I have some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Okay.
About our guest next week.
All right.
Oh.
It is David Stark.
All right, David, we need to get that bottle out before next week.
I've got him. Yeah, he's going to come on next week.
Oh, brilliant. Look at Andrew's face. He's oh my god.
No. That's good. That is good. I'll need to watch that one.
I spoke to David last year. Obviously, when the whole advertising came out about the book and things last year, I spoke to him, and we were always going to get him on at the start of the year. And I've got a list of people. People are so busy just now, so it's been difficult kind of getting things sort of lined up. So he was one of my people that I've been kind of prodding around at. So that's great.
If anyone here is watching and is at all interested in the history of like this unique thing that we've got in Scotch whisky and independent bottling, then I would thoroughly recommend it. I was very lucky to get a sneak peek at the book recently, and immediately scrolled to the page that we were on, of course, because that's the most important part of the whole book, obviously. But it was just because we're such massive narcissists. But also, like, I was going through and then I recognized a very familiar face just a couple of pages behind where we were. And it was Andy Hart at the Maltman. And, one of my earliest kind of moments of making a move to kind of do things with Little Brown Dog, we used to go out and do the shows with Andy in Switzerland for Maltman because their Swiss importer is a friend of mine. And, Andy is a fantastic guy. They do amazing stuff with Maltman, and he taught me an awful lot, and he was, just really, really good to me, and still is. Like you can pick up the phone and ask a couple of questions, and he's always answered. Reciprocated by giving him advice on his dog a few times as well. But to see him in the book next to us is like that was cool. It was like wow, that's something. Like he's a bit more professional. He's there with his kilt and his keepers of the quaich. We're not that, but it's, again, it tells you about the diversity of this industry, so it's cool. So if anyone's not ordered David's book, if there's still copies available, I'd recommend it. I think it's going to be really, really excellent to sit down and just enjoy it with a dram.
Very much looking forward.
Yeah. And what I would say after that, Andrew, is any indie bottler or anyone who was in that book who got a preview who didn't go straight to their page first.
Lying.
A liar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everyone does it. Oh, I'm in this.
I can also recommend the 100 Gin guide by Sean as well. Like,
what page are you on?
I can't remember, but it's probably sitting there. But I think it was like literally like, where's our page? Hey! I'll read the rest later. No, it's also very good.
You don't even need to read it because you wrote what he's, or you've given him all the feed he needs.
No, Sean wrote about it as well, and like Sean's a cracking guy as well. Like really good fun. Really, really knows his gin, and he presents it in an interesting way, like a really accessible way that is interesting. And if you are interested in gin, it's a great way to find out about many of these gins, and also like you might find something that interests you in there as well. So let's try and sell some more books for Sean Murphy as well.
And because we just missed the cutoff for his latest one, because he hasn't done a 22 one, did he?
I think it came out in 22 or the beginning of 22, or the end of 21.
We launched
second edition, I think.
Yeah, we launched September 21, so I think we just missed out on the his research cutoff. But if he's doing, Sean, if you're watching, or if you do come back watching, give me a shout. We'll try and get in.
He's coming up this weekend, so I'll tell him to leave you out for next year as well.
Less exposure is doing well for us, actually.
We need all the help we
I
can
know you
get.
just jumped on the train and just jumped straight into this. So I don't know if you've even had a chance to have anything to eat tonight. So thank you so much for your dedication and joining us. Really appreciate that, as always. And it's one of the reasons we really, really like you, the company, Chris as well needs a mention. So
100%. Well, I will drag him on one time. If you ever have us on back again, I mean, God, what the hell we end up talking about? We come back on again. But I will make a point of dragging. I had hoped to do this from the distillery, and then there would be a small chance that he would be popping in or drag him in.
We'll get that arranged.
Yeah.
We had him in balloon form the last time. I just remembered that.
God, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
We'll get that arranged.
Yeah. Aye. Yeah. Anyway, but no, good to speak to you both.
Yeah.
And thanks again, everybody, for listening. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much. Have a great weekend, and thanks to everyone at home. We don't need to do next week's announcement; that has been done. And yeah, let's all catch up again next week, if not through the week. Cheers, guys.
Good day, everybody.
Cheerio.